nothing's come up for almost an hour now, so it's fair to say that's the latest for updates. So Israel, trying to say that we're delaying on the release of the deceased hostages. There were 24 of them still to be returned. It's understood it's been somewhat difficult to locate them, which, when you take a look at the scenes of Gaza, it's easy to understand why. And we've been seeing a lot more footage of that now in the last few days during the ceasefire. More drone footage and footage from the ground, obviously. So 4 of them have been returned. It's a sausage fest, people. This live feed. I don't think I've seen a single sub headline there that didn't have the word hostage in. No mention of those 7 kills, and at the time of scrolling, I've just stopped there. That's reported way before I came to you on the live stream, going back to 20 to 8 UK time, PM, that is. Referring to Thomas Trump has said they're going to disarm because they said they would disarm, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. I don't think he'd be the first to have said that. They know I'm not playing games, he also added. Sausages, October 7th. It's just, yeah, or again, we talk about 20 people who are alive, not even refugees. Now, they have homes to return to. Their families haven't been wiped out. That's all the way down on the first page, at least. I won't go through. That was hours and hours worth. That's going back to 6:30 p.m. again, Greenwich Mean Time, or British Standard Time, whichever you prefer. That's all it is. It's, again, on the balance of life and loss, etc. And this whole affair, I dare say that there are bigger concerns. Kidnapped from a tank. Alright, so it's fair the latest. What else did I want to point out? Oh, of course, there was the latest on the Green Party surge. And since it was last week, you on a stream, which was only on Sunday night, they've gained another 10,000 members, so they're now on 110,000 and counting. And at this rate, at the going rate, people, they will be the 3rd biggest party by members in Britain. That's the humble little Green Party there. And there's your party and so didn't hit the ground running as well as Zach Polanski's leadership has done, but I'm sure there's room for them to catch up. So isn't that something? Third biggest party. I just need to update the live chat there as well. And I was going to point out good points from Graham Turner. This peace deal could have been done under the Biden admin. Well, we know that the one that was accepted under Biden was more or less the same deal that was on the table very early on, perhaps as early as November 2023, included full release of the hostages, included many of the details of this. He's done an Elon Musk. He's taken someone else's thing, slapped his name on it, and he's trying to claim the credit for it, or at least he's creating the hype about it. So maybe he did learn a couple of things from Elon. But that was more or less the deal brokered by Qatar some time ago, only potentially slightly altered here and there. Yeah, good point, Graham. Could have been achieved a long time ago. We know that Israel railroaded those talks I referred to in November 23. Yeah, not last year, the year before, just a month after this escalation began after the counter attack. Um, okay, yeah, I did say I was going to do somewhat of an abbreviated episode of My Left Private Eye. Um, yeah, okay, I guess we can do. Just quickly talk about something. Sorry, I don't have any clips prepared, but I'll get something together for the next live stream. We'll just go over and I'll fill you in on a couple of updates.
Hmm. It won't be a long one, darling, honestly. I was missing yesterday. I'll miss tomorrow and Thursday. I'm going to be busy. I've got two appointments on Thursday, so I'll be too knackered anyway to stream on Thursday. I'll just be watching Kevin and Leela. Then Friday, I'm going to be travelling through Edinburgh. So I thought I'd at least do something during the week. So I'm going to be missing until Friday night now. Don't worry about me. I'll be a good girl. I will, don't worry. I'll be a good little girl. Yeah, I pushed myself too much. I did go into this thinking I can stream every night. I'll be fine. There I go. I'll go into my actual. I'll come on to my chat now. I'll behave. Don't you worry. Thank you for dropping by. How are you feeling anyway? Oh God, I better turn that volume down actually. Still hear myself. I'll be reverb out. Sleepy but okay. Well, you travelled a couple of 100 miles. beyond 12, actually. Hang on, check. I've checked before. Next, and also 430 miles. Nothing to be sneezed at. Weird looking path. Eh, I-10 eastbound. Alright. That's basically the flight time between Glasgow and Heathrow. And that's about 600-ish, 620 maybe, because the location of it is that. It shouldn't be that far. Look, look at the beast in this. Thank you, Scottish Police. Always trying to. Wait, let's see. Oh, actually, where am I? Look yourself. Let's see if I can get some Blue Room comrades. No, promo. Well, thanks. Back to my win. Basic Scottish news. There we go. Oh. Doo-doo. Go. Good job. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Get 'em there. Doo-doo-doo-doo. I've already got people here. Hello, YouTube comrades. Welcome. I be Katie Marshall 4340 over there, or MadCat79 Scotty I here on Twitch. I am a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer who nearly fucking killed herself over the weekend. Me being doing too much. I have to be a good little girl, so I don't actually end up knackering myself. I was knacking yesterday. It was not fun. I'll wait and see if anyone comes here onto my Twitch. How long have we been going? 15 minutes. Ah, I'll give it to 20. Look at this. If we cause any bother, we'll get lifted as for breach of the peace, which is basically just a fine. You don't get locked up for that stuff here unless if you do any, you get lifted for criminal damage. Don't get me wrong, but fine and or behind bars for a couple of months, maybe 3 months. But we're not classed as terrorists. They're not classed as terrorists up here because it's daft, and the law is different up here in Scotland because our legal system is older than England because they took our legal system and changed it. They literally took our one and said, "No, you didn't make me that." Michael, boy, welcome, welcome, Newcastle. Rejoice, comrades. Michael Askew is here. Welcome in. Great to see you. Look, look at that great headline. Fucking awesome. Were you over on Lefty? I trying to remember if I saw you. I saw plenty of other people. Welcome in, Michael. Great to see you. Uh, I'm giving people till 20 minutes, and I've been going for roughly 17 to see if anyone arrives on Twitch. Then we'll get into the story. This isn't a long read, and I will explain as I go. Christ's sake. Anyway, give me a minute. I'll be losing my chat off Twitch for a minute. Current temperature, if you please. 6 degrees. I was half expecting Helena at some point today. I thought we might not see Kev, especially after England won. He might have went to watch the game in the pub, or he might just be knackered because he's been doing a lot recently as well. And I didn't blame him because I was trying to do the same, like a numpty. Oh, Shanna, if you're still here, my sister got on to me as well. She found out that I'd streamed all weekend. She yelled at me through, through text. She doesn't even really have the time for phone calls. She was saying, "Didn't fucking do that to yourself. I get what you're trying to do, but fucking stop it." Fine. She's promised not to tell mum. I can because mum does have the time, and she will call me up and yell at me. And I don't like it when mum yells at me. I try not to piss mother off. She's got a lot on her plate dealing with my niece and my two nephews. Excuse me. Let's see. A minute left. Oh, aha. Stick on lights. It's a smaller one, about that size. That's actually quite bright. I think I might just lower myself a bit. That's better. So it's not directly shining in my eyes. That really has brightened up the place instead of having to use the lamp behind me. You can see the lamp up there. There we go. Okay, sorry if you come in during the story. I can go back. Shall we? Breaking. Scottish police found Palestine actions activities below level of terrorism ban. Who'd have thunk it? Scotland being based. Details of meetings obtained by the National, basically a newspaper for Scotland, based up here, via Freedom of Information request, have confirmed that Police Scotland found that anti-genocide protest group Palestine Action's activities fell far below the level to be considered terrorism. PA has been banned, prescribed, as a terrorist group by the Westminster government of Keir Starmer, despite the government's own anti-terror committee reaching the same conclusion as Police Scotland. Gonna thunk it. Palestine Action, not terrorists. Minutes from key police contest meeting notes that currently within Scotland, this group has been focused on protest activity which has not been close to meeting the statutory definition of terrorism. Counter-terrorism policing continues to monitor their activities and are prepared to intervene where necessary. Former UK Ambassador Craig Murray, who has been a victim of the Starmer regime's abuse of legislation to hound anti-genocide protests and journalism, said of a Palestine Action ban. The main meeting of Scottish Counter-Terrorism Board contest included the Scottish Government, Police Scotland and the security services. It concluded that Palestine Action were not even close to being a terrorist organisation. Round of applause. This proves what we all know. This proscription was a political move by Yvette Cooper in the interests of arms industry and the Zionist lobby. We will be pursuing this in court. Then Home Secretary, now Shabana Mahmood, Yvette Cooper and other government mouthpieces nice, claimed that PA had been banned because the group had been violent and security services believed it was planning even greater violence. Evidence. Evidence, please. Thank you. Leaked notes from the government's Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, or JTAC, show that Cooper had lied. JTAC had reached no such conclusions. By the way, the Home Office is one of the great offices of state. So there's 4 offices of state: the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, Home Secretary, and Foreign. That's the 4 main. That's the 4 great offices of state, as they're colloquially known. The 4 with the majority of power, which is fucking ridiculous. Your mum from Kinghorn. Nice one. Good Scottish lass then. What's your Gemma? Rejoice, comrades. Famed Australian anarchist. Story Girl is here. Hi, Gemma. I killed myself over the weekend streaming too much. I was in agony yesterday. Well, oh no, technically we are still on Tuesday. So on Monday, I was paying the price for basically streaming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I can't quite do that, not yet at least. Oh, thank you, Shanna. Self-inflicted. I just need to know when to level it, reduce it a bit. So doing 4 days in a row, not for me. 3 times a week, maybe? So like start of week Monday or Tuesday, end of week Thursday, so I can cover um debate night, which is Scotland, and question time, which is all of the UK. and maybe one on Saturday if I'm feeling up to it. So just space them out, give myself a day or two to recover from each stream. Oh, thank you, Gemma, for shouting out Capricorn. Here we go. Around 2,000 peaceful protesters have been arrested for demonstrating against the decision to ban a non-violent group and classify it as terrorists alongside groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda? I'm sorry, Arabic. Or Pashto. That is Arabic, isn't it? Well, the government invited an actual ISIS Al-Qaeda terrorist to visit the UK. That's the now head of the leader of Syria, by the way. And the UK military helped his terror group fight government troops in Syria. Oh, it is him. British government, what you gonna do? That is fucking ridiculous. He was literally the head of ISIS in Syria, I think. Was it Al Qaeda? I can't remember. But if you want to look up, just type in leader in Syria. He's basically whatever the prime minister or the president. The president. I think it might be president. So president of Syria. Well, in Scotland, being based yet again. Okay. Ah, go. Close. Oh, I've got one of those little stick-on lights up here now. I've lowered myself so it's not directly in my eyes, and it's giving a lovely illumination just over the laptop. This is looking good. You're going to be seeing pictures of where I live, literally where I live. I will not say that's in the city centre, by the way. That's the kind of galleries you can see here. Where are we? That's Buchanan Galleries. That's one of the major shopping centres in Glasgow City Centre on Buchanan Street. Compassion is stronger than division. Glasgow's battle over the Saltire. Oh God, there's too many different fucking colours. The lighter colour is the proper blue, by the way. This darker one is incorrect, and that is the Union flag, and it can fuck off. Sorry if you identify with that flag. I didn't want to talk to you. You have every right to exist. Just go away. Scotland's national flag has become a flashpoint in a growing cultural battle linked to anti-immigration sentiment. In the racially diverse Springburn area, of Glasgow, people fear a storm is gathering and refuse to let it pass unchallenged. I'll keep you informed if anything kicks off in the area, don't worry. And I will be excluding myself because disabled and I break far too fucking easily. Fuck, fucking hell. Yeah, yeah. It is freaky seeing your local area in the news. In recent weeks, the streets of North and East Glasgow have been lined with saltires, Scotland's national flag, rooted in the story of St Andrew's martyrdom and a long symbol of resilience and pride, has become a flashpoint in a growing cultural battle. Flags have been raised as part of a UK-wide action known as Raise the Colours. amid protests against housing asylum seekers in hotels and rising far-right activity. In these four photos, you might be seeing my flat, but I will not say. Ricky. In Springburn, a community with no asylum seeker hotels, but scarred by deep poverty and known for its diversity of Black and other minority ethnic groups, refugee and asylum seekers, hundreds of flags appeared almost overnight. They literally appeared overnight. Literally. Because Super Happy went out the day before and there was none because he had to go to the shopping centre to collect our medicines. One of mine's and all of his from the local pharmacy and going to the shopping centre to get some stuff for me. And he came back in. Oh, fine, we were in the house. And when he had to go out the following day to go for an appointment, they were literally lining the streets. They were on, as you can see, on lampposts. And he came back in. Come here, you need to see this. And he took me outside and just all the lampposts outside, literally all of them, tall tires. And I thought, what the? They weren't there yesterday. The only way they could have got that up was at least a, a group of five of them with a lift, like a cherry picker, to put them up. How high up they were, you'd need a fucking cherry picker to get up to them, like a ladder. So that's the driver and at least two others to put the fucking flag on the lamppost, all the way from Springburn, fucking Maryhill Road. That isn't just the two dudes doing that. To get all of that done in the space of a night, there's at least five, possibly even 10 of them. Their sudden presence unsettled many residents. I was just perplexed. In response, a grassroots coalition, Springburn anti-racism group, I, I've met them out in the streets, was formed to reclaim the Saltire and defend the neighbourhood with a message of solidarity and inclusion. There is lots of asylum seekers who have been moved into here over the years. Don't get me wrong, Springburn is still quite white. There's quite a lot of this in Springburn, but there's people of there's Iraqis, Afghanis, Africans, Senegalese, and Rwandans here in Springburn, and a good few from the West Indies, so like the Caribbean. This is Buchanan Street. The tension burst into public view last month as a far-right backed unity rally in central Glasgow. Saltires and Union flags flew alongside anti-immigrant slogans, with counter-protesters from Stand Up to Racism and other groups assembled on the other side of police lines. For hours, chants and banners collided in the streets. It wasn't like that. There was more anti-racism people than there were racists. The standoff ended after 5 hours with one arrest for the assault of a police officer and an atmosphere that was heavy with unease, a sense that deeper, wider conflicts were brewing beneath the surface. I still don't understand why this flag was here at all. He is neither Scottish or British. And I don't think he even fucking visited Scotland. So I don't know what, just no. He has no connection to this country. Get rid of that. While the city centre rally drew headlines, a quieter struggle is playing out daily in Springburn. The newly formed anti-racist group, which has fewer than 20 members but is growing, says that even small acts of resistance matter. It plans to host community arts and music events to celebrate Springburn's diversity and is launching an anonymous system for reporting racism, enabling the group to share findings with those who can act. The group fears a storm is gathering and refuses to let it pass unchallenged. For Malloy Sarkar from the Bangla Centre Skills Charity, correct, Michael. I don't like seeing the. Don't get me wrong. I know. I get it. It's our flag. It's the Union flag. I get it. We do see it. But that amount of them, no, just fuck off. Cannot be arsed. The flags first seemed harmless because I've got a very unique connection with the saltire. I know what it represents to me. I don't know why they've used it for this one because historically it hasn't been like that. I thought it was for a football match. It's Scotland's flag after all. Correct. You recall, 'cause at first I wasn't worried, but then I saw online who was putting the flags up and the anti-immigrant slogans tied to them, and I began to feel very anxious. Oh my God, this is Springburn Park. up, up there, I up that way. That is the Winter Palace. It's needing upgraded. Schoolteacher Debbie Jack joined the group after watching far-right natives narratives gain traction. That's better. People were in shock, almost sleepwalking, while the news kept targeting immigrants. We decided it was time to act to protect our pupils and our community. Though she hadn't noticed an increase in racism among her students, she is deeply concerned by how aggressively young white boys are being radicalized online. Springburn is multicultural. It is. Children from all ethnic backgrounds grow up learning and playing together. That is the norm. But if we don't resist, these outside forces will poison that. Look, Palestine flags. Oh, my councillor. Hi, Graham. Graham Campbell, a local councillor, he's SNP, by the way. A look at a linked attention to Glasgow's worsening housing crisis. The North has lost far more homes than it has gained. Tower blocks have been demolished and not replaced with enough new housing. Correct. Poverty and poor housing are real issues, but blaming the refugees is a dangerous distraction. Ethno-nationalism is cringe. Very cringe. Where is he standing? Oh, he is standing on what used to be the red road. Flats. They got brought down. Though flag hangers often claim their actions about housing shortages, the NHS, or crime, Campbell disagrees. If you have grievances, there are legitimate ways to raise them with councillors, MSPs. This isn't about housing or protecting communities. It's about hijacking Scotland's flag. The National Front tried it years ago. They did. Failed. And they failed. These new far-right groups will fail too. Enough of us people like me, people like Graham. Oh, is it? Ah, that bit is actually quite lovely where it is. That bit right there. For refugees, the Saltire's new associations carry a painful weight. Ruchislav Prokaira, sorry dude if I pronounced that incorrectly, Cyrillic's hard, who fled Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, helped establish a tenants group, community gardens and clean-up projects in Springburn. He worries that the welcome he once received would be less likely today. We tried to make this a better place for everyone, but suddenly all you hear is that refugees are a problem. No, no, no. That's not the truth. You can't judge us all by the actions of a few. Ah! Community Hub, Springburn Shopping Centre. Mala Jahendara and her son Sean, founders of Springburn Unity Network, share that frustration. Thank you, Mala. After 7 years of waiting, they finally gained refugee status in 2023 because the British government sucks. But for years, they had already been serving the community, running food banks, language classes, and family support. We've given years of work here, says Daran. Then people turn around and call us lazy, say we're a burden. No, no, they're not. What have people like Manfrog ever done for Springburn? Fuck all. Nothing. For them, it's political theatre. Well said. For us, it's survival. For Sean, joining the anti-racism group is about both prevention and hope. Our greatest identity is not where we are from, but how we connect with the world, and we want to prove that most of Springburn isn't racist. No, hardly any fucking racists here, thank God. The flags remain fluttering over Springburn as uneasy reminders of division. Residents brace for the possibility that hostility will intensify during the next election cycle. The Holyrood elections are in May. It'll feel like dodging racist bullets all over again, Jack warns. Oh my God. What is happening in Springburn reflects a broader struggle across Scotland and beyond, a battle over national symbols, identity, and belonging. The far right's resurgence may be global, but so too is the resistance against it. As Sarkar puts it, small acts carry weight. We may be tiny compared with the scale of global politics, but change always begins at the community level. Even here in Springburn, we can spark something bigger, showing that compassion is stronger than division. Based, based. Did I cover that up right now? I'm going to far right wankly now. Um, oh my God. I will be back momentarily, comrades. I return. Called Scotland. Well said, Michael. we're on to the far right wankery section of my Discord because far right wankery. I would say cowardice, really. Things be happening. You follow? You followed. Jew Shapiro? Ooh. Hello, Jew Shapiro. I am MadCat79 Scotty, a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer. I talk about politics, health and disability issues, and a little bit of history thrown in. Eurovision cowards cancel vote on Israel ban. You're moving the border as we speak. Rejoice, comrades. Rez is here. Hi, Rez. How goes it? Oh, don't you worry. Let's see if everyone can hear this and see my throat.
Eurovision cowards cancel vote on Israel
You
ban.
hear that?
The 1800s-style land theft project, often referred to as Israel, has received a reprieve on potential banishment from the annual Eurovision Song Contest. Organizers, the European Broadcasting
Can everyone hear
Union
this?
(EBU), have
Can everyone hear that? I assume you can. Oh, I like that one.
called off a November vote that was due to take place on the continued involvement of the fake state. In a statement, the Craven body said, "In the light of recent developments in the Middle East, the EBU's executive board, meeting on October 13, agreed there was a clear need to organize an open and in-person discussion among its members on the issue of participation in the Eurovision Song Contest 2026. Consequently, the board agreed to put the issue on the agenda of its ordinary Winter General Assembly, which will be taking place in December, rather than organizing an extraordinary session in advance. So, vague pledges to put the issue on the agenda replace a specifically arranged vote that could have seen the Zionist entity expelled. Due to it being an apartheid, ethnic cleansing, occupying, genocidal terror project, the entity is heavily dependent on events like Eurovision to whitewash its horrifying crimes. It is therefore extremely concerning that the EBU seems keen to quietly sweep the issue under the carpet now that the most acute phase of Zionist genocide in Palestine may have passed. Eurovision organizer EBU passing the buck and dodging the question. The Eurovision coordinator has already tiptoed around the issue, holding a consultation process on the matter that started in July. It said, "We understand the concerns and deeply held views around the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. It is up to each member to decide if they want to take part in the contest, and we would respect any decision broadcasters make." Then, rather than make a decision itself, it passed the buck by organizing a vote. This would have been a simple majority, meaning that 35 of the 68 EBU members would have needed to signal their approval to trigger rejection of Israel. Member states include countries from West Asia and North Africa such as Algeria, Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, at least some of whom would have likely voted for removal. Now even the ballot has been abandoned. The shitshow mirrors the feeble FIFA's failure to kick the settler colony out of the World Cup, another crucial reputation laundering point for Zionism. The EBU had been pressured into the potential vote by a number of countries threatening to withdraw if the pseudo-state squatting on Palestine was granted continued participation. RT, Ireland's national broadcaster, had said, RT feels that Ireland's participation would be unconscionable given the ongoing and appalling loss of lives in Gaza. RT is also deeply concerned by the targeted killing of journalists in Gaza, and the denial of access to international journalists to the territory, and the plight of the remaining hostages. Iceland, the Netherlands, Slovenia, and Spain had also expressed an intention to leave the 2026 Eurovision contest. Spain's culture minister Ernesto Tazón stated, "What I can say is that if Israel takes part, and if we don't manage to get it thrown out, then we'll have to take steps, such as withdrawing. I don't think we can normalize Israel's participation in international forums as if nothing's happened. Even if the genocide has slowed, the Zionist entity still must be boycotted. The last few words from Atazan elucidate a key point that is even more relevant in the wake of the recent developments in Palestine. Simply because there's now a ceasefire, Israel cannot be allowed to escape without consequence for its recent crimes, which are perhaps unparalleled in cruelty. Furthermore, its system of apartheid persists, and it must be ostracized just as apartheid South Africa was. Letting the Zionist abomination compete in events like Eurovision is a breach of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, BDS, anti-normalization guidelines. The Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, PACBI, arm of the BDS movement, calls for a boycott of Israeli academic and cultural institutions for their role in an Israeli system of oppression that has denied Palestinians their basic rights guaranteed by international law, or has hampered their exercise of these rights, including freedom of movement and freedom of expression. Whether or not it has ended its annihilation of Gaza, the above still applies. The EBU must either expel Israel or let its members vote to do so. Featured image via the Canary.
EBU, you suck. They should have been kicked. So it looks like next year's competition is going to be minus one of the big five. Us, France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. We're the five main ones. We don't need to worry because we're the ones that put all the money in, essentially. We're the highest amount. The UK give the most money into this to actually host for Eurovision to carry on, with Germany and France next to Spain, then Italy contributing so us and the Germans basically fund Eurovision, with France and Spain giving equivalent amounts, similar amounts really. But we're the main ones. We're the ones that give the most to the Eurovision, even though we keep on putting shit entries in. Mostly, sometimes we do actually come up with a real decent song. Delightful. Next on Far Right Wankery. That is a hell of a headline. Yes, Eurovision needs to get a fucking grip. Look at the face. Look at the face on it. I can't believe that's my Prime Minister. Oh, God. I will save my voice again.
Trump humiliates Starmer and Blair in bad day for centrist dads. In 2006, George W. Bush infamously embarrassed Tony Blair by yelling "Yo, Blair" at him. It wasn't the informality which made this incident humiliating. It was the fact it perfectly encapsulated the so-called special relationship between the UK and US. This wasn't a relationship of equals, and it hadn't been for some time. When America hollered, the UK came running. Donald Trump and Keir Starmer have had Yo Blair moments of their own, with the latest being this. "Watch," Trump asked. "Where is the UK?" Starmer raised his hand. Trump called him to the stage, making him think he was going to speak. Starmer approached the podium. "It's nice that you're here," Trump said, then sent him back, offending Starmer.
I'll pause it for a
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others.
I despise him with all my being and stuff, but oi, ball bag. Calling Prime Minister Starmer, for fuck's sake. We're one of the we're part of the G7, for fuck's sake. He does have some power, apparently. Yeah. Shall we continue?
ic.twitter.com/y67s4jgmm. Clash Report, at Clash Report, October 13th, 2025. For good measure, Trump also humiliated Tony Blair in a separate incident. Yo, Starmer. In the video above, Trump asks, "Where's United Kingdom?" Starmer responds as if he's in a pantomime, chirping, "I'm behind you." He was literally right there too. It's unclear if this is further evidence that Trump has dementia or an instance of Starmer's forgettableness. Either way, Trump sounds incredibly tired as he says "come here," before asking everything going good. Starmer responds very good, with Trump telling him it's very nice that you're here. While this exchange sounds pleasant enough, Trump proceeds to drop a hydrogen bomb of awkwardness by turning away from Starmer and continuing his train of thought, leaving Starmer just standing there like a lemon. What does he do next? He slowly shuffles around and limply walks back into position while Georgia Maloney and Mark Carney strain to look neutral. This is what the scene looks like after he returns to his position. Starmer seemingly crestfallen while his peers looks like they are trying not to laugh. This is how things looked beforehand. Of course, you can definitely read too much into these things. Maybe Maloney and Carney were remembering a funny joke, while Starmer was thinking about how he provided military support to an ongoing genocide and may end up in The Hague. Regardless of the truth, it's definitely a yo, Blair moment in that it perfectly encapsulates the special relationship in 2025. The US barely remembers that we're there even when we're obviously and painfully right there. In response to these harrowing scenes, people noted the following. Imagine going from the world's most powerful empire to whatever this is in just a few decades. The way Sir Keir happily and eagerly jumps up when called, then slinks back once quickly dismissed, all by someone who doesn't know his name. pic.twitter.com/1irfc3ph. Glenn Greenwald, at Greenwald, October 13th, 2025. It's a crowded field, but I think this might be the most pathetic Britain has ever looked. https://t.co/2hx4zmlg9. Milo Edwards, at Milo_Edwards, October 14th, 2025. No Blair. As promised, Trump also managed to embarrass Blair after embarrassing Starmer with the following exchange. Donald Trump has cast doubt on the appointment of former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair to a Gaza Board of Peace by telling reporters on Air Force One that he wants to find out if Tony would be popular with all in the Middle East. Gaza latest https://t.co/c3017jepic.twitter.com/lhjbyxgo7r. Sky News, at Sky News, October 13th, 2025. Translation. The warmonger criminal Tony Blair is absolutely not popular enough in the Middle East, and we need to back away from our plan to make him the Viceroy of Palestine. This was at least less embarrassing than what he subjected Starmer to, but only because Blair wasn't lurking in the background when he said it. Trump, Starmer, and repetition. The saying goes that history repeats itself, first as tragedy and second as farce. We were well into the farce stage with Bush and Blair. As such, it makes sense that what we're seeing now is so far beyond farcical. Schadenfreude aside, it's important to remember that the buffoonish actions of these grotesque clowns have real-life consequences. The ceasefire is a welcome end to the genocide, but it's also just the beginning. Exactly this. This is what we need to continue fighting for until a free Palestine. https://t.co/1enqdrzldw. Abu Bakr Abed, at Abubakar Abed W., October 11th, 2025. Featured image via Clash Report.
I like that one. That one looks awesome. Ceasefire tech, even though they're not fucking recognizing it. Still a long way off yet. Okay, let's carry on with the far right wankery. I think I'll read this one. That's not a long one. If MI5 are worried about threats to democracy, they should start with Morgan McSweeney. Yes. MI5 head Sir David McCallum issued a stern warning Monday, 13th of October, so 2 days ago, essentially. New advice from the National Protective Security Authority, NPSA, said politicians and staff should be wary of foreign interference in democracy. We have 2 words for McCallum, Morgan McSweeney. That he is essentially Starmer's chief of staff in number 10. MI5 say what? The guidance is meant to explain how state-backed actors and their proxies attempt to manipulate, discredit, or secretly gather information on political figures at all levels. This is done often through subtle and deceptive means that blur the line between legitimate engagement and malign activity. McCallum said, when foreign states steal vital UK information or manipulate our democratic processes, they don't just damage our security in the short term, they erode the foundations of our sovereignty and ability to protect our citizens' interests. But you think this government's doing that? I beg to differ. Everyone reading this guidance cares deeply about the role they play in UK democracy. Take action today to protect it and yourself. You can read the full advice here. I'll no bother. What the head of Britain's internal security wing did not say is just as significant. With everything that's going on, it feels like there are some serious gaps in the advice. Morgan McSweeney's scam. Oh, delightful. While we're on the topic of threats to democracy, let's talk about the major scandal we're serialising. By that we mean hard evidence that our current Labour government is the product of a scam by a secretive cabal of authoritarians, Labour together. Specifically, we mean the secret project by Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, and others to guarantee Jeremy Corbyn's reformist left agenda never got into power. You can read parts 1 and 2 of our serialisation of Paul Holden's new book, The Fraud, now. From the off, this project to subvert British democracy was carried out in the utmost secrecy. McSweeney was clear in his briefing that the conspiracy to destroy Corbynism would have to be conducted in utmost secrecy. Indeed, McSweeney's SWOT analysis identified the discovery of the true work of Labour Together project as one of the greatest threats it faced. The aim from 2017 was to become the vehicle through which McSweeney would run a secret campaign to seize the Labour Party back from its ascendant left wing. Killing the story. This process, by its very nature, involved attacks on another key democratic institution, the press, specifically the Canary. This is a fact we were reporting as far back as 2020, so 5 years ago. On 2nd of August 2019, an anonymous internet campaign named Stop Funding Fake News celebrated its apparent success in downsizing the Canary. For 6 months, SFFN had been trying to demonetize the Canary by lobbying companies to remove adverts from its website, basically denying the Canary money. Sturmer ultimately won the election by lying to voting members that he was a left-wing successor to Jeremy Corbyn. Was he bollocks? In reality, his win was the result of a shadowy, off-the-books operation at least as complex as something MI5 itself might run. A project which was years in the making. as Holden recounts. Starmer could launch his candidacy so quickly thanks to years of preparation largely outside the public eye. This work was done by a political project operating through an organisation called Labour Together. The project had likely started preparing for a leadership contest before Starmer was even aware of his existence. Let's be clear here, Iran, Russia and China, all named in the MI5 advice, have an interest in shaping British politics, just as the UK seeks to shape theirs. We may never know the full degree to which any of these actors are enjoying success. Well, we can tell just by what the Labour government are currently doing. We do know in the 2019 election, the most important for generations was hijacked by an enemy within, a shadowy party within Labour who put their hard-right ideological leanings above democracy so they alone could decide the future of their country, and it worked. After that one, I feel I need to show Kane Skittles' video again to show you just how bad it was. He actually hits on some key points that were just brought up in that article. Okay, I will show it. How long will be going? An hour and 11 minutes. Okay. Huh? No? 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 What is it? No, no. What is it? I forget how far down it is. Ah! Found it.
Hey, it's Kay, and this is Skittles, legal consultant.
Okay.
Of the many accusations levied towards Jeremy Corbyn and the left wing of the Labour Party over the past few years, perhaps none have been as significant and long-running as accusations of anti-Semitism, of fostering an environment that breeds anti-Semitism, and of refusing to punish people within the party who engage in anti-Semitism. If you've followed British politics at all during this period, you've probably seen countless headlines, interview questions, and even a BBC panorama, all leading to the same conclusion. Labour is systemically anti-Semitic and Corbyn's side of the party is to blame. In April of this year, a report was leaked, despite the specific requests of party lawyers to keep it quiet. This report was carried out to investigate Labour's handling or lack thereof of anti-Semitism complaints within the party, to be submitted as part of an investigation by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and what it turned up is deeply disturbing, as well as very inconvenient for Starmer and the rest of the Labour right. There's two main points about this report that we're going to explore today: the nature of the anti-Semitism situation within the Labour Party and the factionalism at play during the past few years. First, the anti-Semitism. So the media narrative over the past few years went like this. Labour is systemically anti-Semitic, and it is because Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite who is not taking anti-Semitism seriously and is intentionally going easy on people who complaints have been made against. Before even diving into this report, however, we should consider the suggestion that Labour is particularly anti-Semitic. This report does not claim, and I would never suggest, that no anti-Semitism exists within the Labour Party, as it exists, unfortunately, throughout British society. But for years, stories of this great anti-Jewish conspiracy within the party dominated political discourse, but has been accompanied by precious little evidence. In fact, YouGov polling, featured in a Campaign Against Anti-Semitism report, shows that when presented with 8 anti-Semitic statements, more Conservative Party members agreed with one or more of these statements than Labour members. And indeed, the general public was more likely to agree with one or more anti-Semitic statement than Labour, and less than the Conservatives. This indicates that Labour membership is less anti-Semitic than the general population, and that Conservative membership is more anti-Semitic than the general population. And that's not even getting into other forms of racism, which surely would not go well for the Tories, since 56% of their membership in a 2019 poll said they believe Islam is a threat to British life, and 68% believe the lie that there are areas in Britain that operate under Sharia law. So, in the search for evidence of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party to a greater extent than other political parties or the country as a whole, we only really turn up evidence of the very opposite. Already, this is raising questions about why Corbyn had to spend years constantly answering for the supposed rampant anti-Semitism of his party, while Boris Johnson scarcely has to do the same for the greater levels of anti-Semitism and the wide variety of other bigotries his party holds, and that he himself has contributed to on numerous occasions. However, when polled about which party has done too little to deal with anti-Semitism in its own ranks, British Jews overwhelmingly said the Labour Party. It would be easy to say this perception is due to the aforementioned endless questioning of Labour leadership about why they're big, awful anti-Semites and they love anti-Semitism so much, and I mean it definitely is largely due to that, let's not kid ourselves, though I'm sure that Jewish voters being more likely to vote Conservative probably helped it go down easier. But for the sake of argument, there may be a legitimate worry that even if Labour has less anti-Semitism than other parties, that they are handling it so ineffectively that it becomes a greater threat. This worry is reinforced by the fact that the Equality and Human Rights Commission is investigating the Labour Party. Not the Conservative Party, not UKIP or the Brexit Party, only Labour. And only during the tenure of a left-wing leader, despite, again, far more evidence of systemic racism in those other parties. Curious. So, to speak to how Labour handled anti-Semitism complaints, let's look to the report. The report notes that there is abundant evidence of a hyper-factional atmosphere prevailing in Party HQ in this period, which appears to have affected the expeditious and resolute handling of disciplinary complaints, and that many staff, including GLU staff and senior staff with responsibility for managing and overseeing GLU, were bitterly opposed to the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn, and seem to have been demotivated, or largely interested in work that could advance a factional agenda. At its extreme, some employees seem to have taken the view that the worse things got for Labour, the happier they would be, since this might expedite Jeremy Corbyn's departure from office. The report shows Sam Matthews, who was in charge of handling the complaints procedure, was actively obstructive to the process. He worked under Ian McNicol, the General Secretary of the Labour Party until 2018, seen in multiple leaked chat logs actively dismaying at the idea of Corbyn becoming leader and at Corbyn gaining seats in the 2017 general election. Let's talk about Sam Matthews for a minute. Prior to this report being released, Matthews spent a lot of time in the media spotlight insisting that anti-Semitism is not only endemic in the Labour Party, again, despite all evidence to the contrary, but also insisting that it is not only Corbyn's fault, but that he and his cabinet are actively lying about it and obstructing him. Matthews was a whistleblower that took part in a hotly contested BBC Panorama episode about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and said it included important disclosures about how deep the rot inside the Labour Party goes. Speaking to The Independent last year, Matthews said he had witnessed firsthand the complete failure of the party processes to adequately deal with anti-Jewish racism. He continued, "By the end of my time there, I witnessed daily interference in the process, meaning that my team and I, who were responsible for discipline in the party, were simply unable to do our jobs." Matthews was removed from the position shortly after Jenny Formby took Ian McNichol's job in 2018. Now, 2018 is an important year in this investigation because it's the year that many of the old guard sympathetic to the Blair era were removed from key positions such as General Secretary. And it's also the year, the report notes, that the handling of anti-Semitism complaints became far more robust and effective. To understand why that is, we need to look to what the report tells us about the performance of Matthews and McNichol. The report notes, "This investigation has revealed to the party that in this period before Jenny Formby became General Secretary in spring 2018, GLU failed to act on the vast majority of complaints received, including the vast majority of complaints regarding anti-Semitic conduct." But let's take a closer look at exactly what they were up to, because simply put, Matthews wasn't doing his job. And when he did, it was often in a malicious and actively obstructive manner. The inbox used for receipt of complaints would go months without any staff member tending to it, and in dozens of cases, staff even emailed Head of Dispute Sam Matthews proposing that an investigation be launched, but he failed to act or respond. Matthews appeared to have been the main blockage to action on anti-Semitic cases. And the few cases that were acted upon were mostly the result of other senior labor staff directly chasing him. From the 1st of November 2016 to the 19th of February 2018, there were just 2 cases reported in this period where Head of Dispute Sam Matthews acted in accordance with the designed processes and authorized action, which was then taken without having a personal relationship with the complainant or being chased by senior labor staff. This amounted to fewer than 1% of the anti-Semitism cases submitted in this period that should have been investigated and acted upon. The report is full of instances of Matthews and McNichol being lenient toward right-wing labor members with complaints against them and being extra punitive against left-wing labor members in too many shockingly unprofessional instances to go into in this video. The report also notes that after Matthews and McNichol were replaced by individuals less openly hostile to Corbyn, systems were finally put in place and properly followed to handle complaints. The headline that isn't being reported on is, rather than failing to properly handle anti-Semitism complaints, Corbyn and his side of the party are the main reason the party ever began to handle them properly at all. The report notes that the complaint system prior to 2015, the year Corbyn became leader, was woefully inadequate. Lord
Just go back a few seconds. Sorry about that. Damn trapped wind haunting me. Brr. Oh, if I hadn't already told you, I suffer from IBS, so that's irritable bowel syndrome, and I've got it's not quite a cyst or anything. It's because of damage that NSAID, so anti-inflammatory drugs that I was on from me being a teenager and getting diagnosed with arthritis. It damaged the bottom part of my stomach and the top part of my intestines. So it kind of breaks every now and again, not completely. It, the shield that the proton pump inhibitors, the PPI ones, the drugs that I'm on, well, the one drug that I'm on for this, it sometimes leaks out and it causes me severe discomfort, not quite crippling agony from when they actually discovered this issue, but it still causes me issues. Let's just put it that way. So I have to release the pressure because there's an extra buildup of stomach acid, so hydrochloric acid, which is strong as fuck in me apparently. Delightful. So I have to release it so it doesn't cause too much damage in me, especially in the lower part of my stomach. It fucking sucks, doesn't it, Gemma? So I have to be careful. If I don't release the pressure, like I actually make myself burp to dissipate some of these issues. I can actually just not fester, but it overproduces and that causes me severe stomach cramps and I can't eat. And it sometimes makes me throw up. It, ugh. Rejoice, comrades, John the Brazen. Welcome, Mr. the Brazen. How goes it? Great to see you. Raptor showed it, and so did Kev. But the first one that I noticed it in was Raptor Blue Stream, and I thought, fucking yes. Well, that's in Oregon. He's in Washington, so he probably heard of it first, because neighbouring state probably gets the news quicker than most of us about that happening. If you want to post anything, I have a meme channel yet. I don't think I have a meme channel yet. Just post it in general, and I can show it at some point. But yeah. If you've got pictures of the memes, I've seen them all. It looks fucking delightful. I was laughing along it. It's fucking amazing. On you go, Portland based. They had frogs and they had unicorns and bears and pandas and stuff. It was amazing. I loved it. Well done, Portland. Round of applause. He did. I want to say Sunday, maybe Saturday. The first time I noticed it was on Thursday or Saturday. Saturday with Raptor, and I thought, yes, beast. It was last night. It was Monday night. It was Monday night. Well, technically we're on Wednesday now, so it was Monday night with Kev. He showed it with Christy. Is there? Well, the meme the meme turnaround time is pretty quick these days. Usually in a matter of hours, really. Quite fun. The meme artists, they be quick, and some of them have been delightfully hilarious.
Handle them properly at all. The report notes that the complaint system prior to 2015, the year Corbyn became leader, was woefully inadequate. Lord knows what was going on under Blair. It says GLU's disciplinary processes in 2015 to 2016 were characterized by an almost complete lack of systems, processes, guidances, and training for staff members. There was no system for logging all complaints. And before 2015, GLU appears to have only done small amounts of work relating to disciplinary cases. Staff appear to have been accustomed to being subject to little or no scrutiny or oversight from within Labour HQ or externally, and the processes that did exist were equipped to, at best, deal with a small number of cases very slowly and in an ad hoc manner. This
He is correct. God knows what was happening under Blair with this. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And Blair's approval ratings for the first 3 years of his prime ministership, his premiership essentially, when he was after 97, after the landslide. So fuck knows what was happening from like 97 to about 2000 and, well, Brown took over in 2007. That's why they were still in power. Then 2010 happened. And we know what the Tories are like, obviously. So who knows what was happening in the shadows between like 2010 and 15 when Corbyn took over. Just frightening, really. Don't get me wrong, I like Ed. I like Red Ed, if you can call him that. That was red. Get that. Not entirely sure of him or his brother. More liberal, methinks. Maybe centre left. Remember all this time, Corbyn was still in the backbenches. He was still an MP, had been since 1983. So he was there. That's why he wanted to change it. I think that was one of his main missions. Not that I'm speaking from. That's what I surmise, really, to clean up how these processes actually worked, which would have been a good thing for the party, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, they're still not left wing enough for me. I'm still going to be communist, but he would have been a damn sight better than what was before him and what came after him.
Approach allowed for decisions to be influenced by personal responsibilities and political allegiances. For example, after complaints about Rod Liddle over transphobic and Islamophobic comments, GLU proposed suspending him and wrote to the leader of the opposition to let them know, as Rod Liddle is a journalist. Leader of the opposition agreed with the proposed suspension.
Rod Liddle is a wanker. I've never really liked him. Maybe we should cover some of this stuff. Might be an idea.
However, GLU's director then informed the executive director of governance, membership, and party services that apparently Rod Liddle is chummy with Ian Austin and by extension Tom Watson, and suggested they sit on it for now, rather than suspend immediately. The executive director replied, "Okay, I will speak to Ian," presumably a reference to consulting Ian Austin on a disciplinary case against his friend. So what we've seen is that Matthews actively ignored, obstructed, and mishandled anti-Semitism complaints despite being repeatedly chased by others within the party, including Corbyn himself, and then went to the media to complain that anti-Semitism complaints weren't being taken care of within the party. This right-wing saboteur created a problem and then used it to smear the Labour left as anti-Semitic. When indeed anti-Semitism complaints only began to be handled appropriately under Corbyn's leadership. Years of Blairite control had resulted in a complaint system that allowed for people to let their friends off the hook when convenient. But Matthews and McNichol were not the only ones purposely obstructing the handling of anti-Semitism complaints to hurt Corbyn's leadership. Other bad actors intentionally flooded the party with disingenuous complaints. In fact, the report notes that half of all anti-Semitism complaints the party received during the period covered in the investigation came from one person. Literally a social media troll who spammed the party with spurious complaints described as poorly evidenced and submitted in a format that hinders investigation. This individual repeatedly emails about the same cases, cluttering the complaints inbox and taking staff time, as staff always have to check whether a case already exists or not, and whether or not all the evidence the complainant is providing has already been logged. A large proportion of the people this individual complains about are either not party members or are already in the disciplinary process, something the complainant has been told repeatedly. The complainant is often rude and abusive in their replies to staff responding to his complaints. The party is also aware that the complainant uses similar language towards people, including labor members, on social media. And this person isn't alone. One spokesperson from Labor Against Anti-Semitism, a right-wing Zionist group who has dedicated recent years to opposing the labor left, submitted the following anti-Semitism complaints. Retweeting the word Blairite. Retweeting a cartoon of Theresa May, Philip Hammond, and Boris Johnson in which the latter two are children, based on a viral incident
They're
where
not
the
in the
children of an
Labour
expert being
Party.
interviewed by the BBC wandered into shot during the interview. They maintained this was very crass. Retweeting Michael Moore saying arrest Trump regarding Russiagate, calling for the arrest and the impeachment of Trump, writing what planet is this president on in reference to Trump, and retweeting an article on Bernie Sanders calling on Donald Trump to fire Steve Bannon. Hang on, I think I must have read that wrong. Let me try that again. Submitted as a complaint about anti-Semitism is somebody retweeting an article on Bernie Sanders calling on Donald Trump to fire known white supremacist and anti-Semite Steve Bannon. Yeah, okay, sure, why not? So we see that not only was the handling of genuine anti-Semitism complaints intentionally hindered by people on the right wing of the party purposely ignoring them, but the number of complaints was also artificially inflated by bad faith actors hostile to the left purposely flooding the complaints department with garbage. But MPs were involved in this too, don't you worry. WhatsApp discussions among senior Labour HQ staff show that Leader of the Opposition was unhappy with the NCC panel's decision to suspend Ken Livingstone for another year rather than expel him. Emily Oldknow wrote that Kerry has been telling Shadow Cabinet members that I've orchestrated the Ken situation, so Tom got his people on the panel to make a soft decision, all in order to embarrass Jeremy Corbyn and create a crisis. That's Emily Oldknow, senior member.
Hi, Emily. Would you like to know who this person's husband is? Jonathan Ashworth. These Blairites are determined to destroy us. We're fighting back. I'm part of the Scottish Greens. Plus, we've got Zach Lansby now. Ha 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 ha. Check us out. Fuck yes. We'll just form our own, or join the Greens, or join the Scottish Greens, or join the SNP if you're up here. Mary, my darling, please join the Scottish Greens. We'd love you to join us. Your husband lost his seat and we still fucking steal on a trailer.
Of Labour's management team actively sabotaging the expulsion of an individual subject to a high-profile anti-Semitism investigation explicitly to make Jeremy Corbyn look bad with the assistance of MP Tom Watson. Oldknow was being considered to take Formby's place as General Secretary under the leadership of Keir Starmer when this report leaked. Thing is, Starmer likely knew all of this before this report was even written, because there was a concerted effort to force a leadership election in 2016 to oust Corbyn, in which many of these same right-wing bad actors participated, and Keir Starmer was one of them. Keir Starmer is part of the Blairite right of the Labour Party who, all throughout this report, can be found not only intentionally ignoring complaints of anti-Semitism to feed the narrative that the left somehow makes anti-Semitism happen, but actively trying to lose general elections. We'll get to that in a moment. First, what have we learned about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party? Is Labour particularly anti-Semitic? Evidence tends to point to the exact opposite conclusion, that Labour is one of our least anti-Semitic political institutions and indeed is less anti-Semitic than the general public. The Lib Dems were the only party that displayed less anti-Semitism, so all 10 of them, well, they've got that going for them. Is there
Knowing where they come from is a good thing, in my opinion. Don't worry, I'll get on to that, how they're actually making it worse. Yeah, just, I don't know if, will he have some form of power? He must do, he's the fucking Prime Minister. That cabinet reshuffle that happened recently, what the fuck? I think some of the ghoulish bastards in the Labour right just fuck off, man. Especially, well, Wes managed to keep his job because, obviously, I hate West Streeting. I'm glad the hell's devolved. I feel for my English comrades. I really do. I keep on saying to them, if you're disabled, just move up here. I can help you to a certain extent, at least.
anti-Semitism in the Labour Party? Yes, of course. You'd be out of your mind to deny that, because there is anti-Semitism throughout British society. This is a pretty racist country, unfortunately. But the constant media attention, the equality
Here's my cohort here, 25 to 49, which seems rather wide. Here's my mum. She's in her 70s. Here's women. We're less racist overall. Funny that. Men are more racist. Who'd have thunk it? Leave are more racist. Delightful. Remain are less racist. Labour are less racist. Look at that.
and Human Rights Commission investigation into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, something only carried out once before with the neo-Nazi BNP. That is not how you react to a party with a below-average presence of anti-Semitism. That is how you react to a party, well, like the Conservative Party. So the narrative around Labour and its supposedly exceptional anti-Semitism problem is categorically false. But they know that. The Tories know that. The media knows that. The Blairites know that. But when you look at everything we know about this mess, when you look at the way far more anti-Semitic institutions have been ignored to focus in on the left wing of British electoral politics, when you look at how, throughout this report, active Holocaust deniers are given a slap on the wrist by the Blairite-led complaints team, when you look at how Keir Starmer is being heralded as an end to this dark era of anti-Semitism and hate, despite collaborating with the people who actively ignored anti-Semitism complaints, despite putting Rachel Reeves on his cabinet, who openly praised Nancy Astor, a literal Nazi-sympathizing anti-Semite, just months ago. And none of the papers seem to think there's anything fishy about that, while the left is under scrutiny to the degree that even criticizing the state of Israel is supposedly adequate evidence to brand someone a massive anti-Semite. Well, it's hard not to come to the conclusion that this was never about anti-Semitism. This was about attacking the left. And while we're likely to see these issues of anti-Semitism fade from public discourse as the right wing of the Labour Party reasserts control and Starmer eagerly declares himself a Zionist, while silencing Palestinian voices, something else has been achieved over these past few years that may be even more damaging. Anti-Semitism has been cleaved off from all other forms of racism as a unique entity in mainstream political
Rejoice, comrades! Brody is here. Hi, Brody. How goes it? Oh, he's Canadian and he lives in Manchester. He's lived in Manchester all his adult life. I think he moved here when he was 20, 21 maybe. But he's been living in Manchester for for a while. He's just a few years younger than me, by the way. I'm a patron. Kay is awesome. I love Kay. Skittles is a parrot, by the way. Oh, I done myself in over the weekend. I streamed for 4 days in a row. Done myself in. On Monday, I was in crippling fucking agony. I slept most of the day. So I'm going to have to lessen myself for a little bit. I've got the Scottish Greens Party conference on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I'm going to knacker myself again for 2 weekends in a row. I have to be there on Saturday. I'm going on Friday just to go and say hi to everyone and stuff. Then find out when's the co-leader's speech. Saturday late afternoon. I might actually bring it up to show you the agenda.
Discourse that can now be used
Hi,
as a
Brody.
weapon. And that weapon is
Yes,
almost
very good.
exclusively wielded by the right, by people who are part of political institutions
Me.
that buddy up to real anti Semites like Viktor Orban. Letting people who rub shoulders with Holocaust deniers and fascists control the narrative about anti Semitism with a media apparatus that will parrot that narrative and use it to attack actual anti racists. This complete inversion of reality in our political discourse will only benefit the powerful and will only put Jewish people at greater risk. Nobody benefits from this shit except actual anti-Semites. Back to Keir and his Blairite buddies. The active stoking of this fabricated anti-Semitism crisis in the party was part of an orchestrated effort to hurt Corbyn's electoral performance and force him to step down so that the right wing of the party could regain control. This report details their efforts to sabotage their own party in the 2017 election. Notably, a lot of the damage they caused only fully came home to roost by 2019. This massive 850-page report details so many acts of hostility and active sabotage against the left wing of the party that I simply cannot go through them all here. So I'm going to list a few of the most egregious ones and attempt to paint a picture of how openly destructive the Labour right has been over the past few years. This report details frequent bullying of left-wing activists, staff, and MPs, with chat logs showing numerous racist, sexist, and ableist tirades, as well as Labour staff dismaying at their own party polling well and saying it makes them feel ill, and insulting people for opposing British imperialism, joking about assaulting left-wing Labour supporters, as well as talking about literally murdering Jeremy Corbyn by burning and hanging him, as well as shooting the MPs who nominated him for leader. Followed by even more dismay when Labour forced a hung parliament in 2017, with Ian McNicol offering a safe space in his office for people to come and vent. McNichol's response to Labour getting the highest share of the popular vote in 20 years and taking the majority away from the Tories was simply, "It is going to be a long night." In August 2015, senior staff explored delaying or cancelling the ongoing leadership election when it looked like Jeremy Corbyn was going to win. When Corbyn was
They
elected,
can't do that.
staff discussed plans for a coup. One staffer said, "We need a poll."
They need the NEC to actually back that, to actually get rid of him in that fashion, and that wasn't going to fucking happen because quite a lot of the members of a good portion of the NEC actually wanted Corbyn in place. They couldn't quite do it at that point. Thank fuck. They managed it all the same. Table of detail.
That says we're like 20 points behind. Another suggested a silver lining for Remain losing the 2016 European referendum would be that Corbyn could be held responsible, and another hoped that poor performance in the May 2016 local elections would be the catalyst for a coup. This is the coup, of course, that the now leader Keir Starmer participated in. Staff described working to rule when Corbyn was elected and coming into the office and doing nothing for a few months. During the 2017 election,
For those that don't know, working to rule is basically working to the exact letter of what's in your contract. So when you get hired, you basically just do whatever's detailed literally in your employment contract with whatever organisation or company. So that's what working to rule is, literally doing that. Technically, the police can't go on strike. They can work to rule, but they can't go on strike because they're servants of the crown. They actually work at the behest of the monarchy, essentially. So police and the armed forces, if they do that, it's actually called, oh God, treason. They can't do it. They get flung in jail for doing that. Dishonorably discharged and everything, and all that sort of nonsense. So the police, soldiers, sailors, people of that nature, people in that sort of sector, those sectors, because they're servants of the crown, they're not allowed to go on strike. They can work to rule. They can basically stick to what's in their contract, and that's it. That happens quite a lot up here if the police feel they're getting abused. It happens more often up here in Scotland, oddly enough. They are still servants of the crown, unfortunately.
staff joked about hardly working and created a chat so they could pretend to work while actually speaking to each other. Senior staff coordinated refusing to share basic information to Leader of the Opposition during the election, such as candidates' contact details. Labour HQ operated a secret key seats team based in Labour's London region office in Ergon House, from where a parallel general election campaign was run to support MPs associated with the right wing of the party. Staff applied the same factional approach to disciplinary processes, of course. One staff member referred to Emily Oldknow expecting staff to fabricate a case against people she doesn't like / her friends don't like because of their political views. During the 2015 leadership election, GLU and other Labour staff described their work as hunting out thousands of trots and a trot hunt, which included excluding people for having liked the Greens on Facebook. One prominent GLU staffer, head of disputes Catherine Buckingham, admitted that real work is piling up, while she and other staff were engaged in inappropriate factional work. Perhaps most egregious and potentially criminal of all, these right-wing saboteurs within the Labour Party actively diverted funds out of marginal seats and gave it to their co-conspirators like Tom Watson. This is especially noteworthy because Labour lost the 2017 election by such a slim margin that just over 2,000 votes in a handful of marginal seats would have been the difference between victory. Marginal seats that were having their campaign funds robbed by Blairites trying to secure power for their friends while undermining the party in the election. I don't think that it is at all unreasonable to say that the active hostility and obstruction intentionally not working and siphoning money out of marginal seats likely made the difference between Labour winning and losing the 2017 election. We are condemned now to years of a continuing homelessness crisis, disabled people dying in droves due to benefit sanctions to a degree that the UN has condemned the British government for it because, as has always been the case, Blairites will always side with the other Tories who are honest enough to stay in the Tory party over the left and the interests of the working class. And now their large wet boy Keir Starmer is in charge. He's filling his cabinet with some of the worst people on the Labour right who have spent the last 5 years attacking Corbyn and the left at every turn. He tried to keep this report from the public and has now enlisted a panel of Labour peers, those are literal lords and ladies for those who don't know, to carry out a witch hunt for the whistleblower while attempting to do damage control because his side of the party is so thoroughly implicated by this report. And he has the audacity to call for unity. Let me be 100% clear. Do not vote for Keir Starmer. While the absolute decline of centrist politics since the end of the Blair era indicates very little chance of a Starmer victory in the next general election, his attacks on the left and appeasement of capital will give him a much easier ride in the media, so there might be a slim chance. And would he be better than Boris Johnson? Probably yes. Tony Blair was
He's
better
not.
than the Tories in some ways too. But what you need to understand, and this can be difficult to fully appreciate if you didn't live through this period in British history, is that Blair did more damage to the working class and the wider political project of socialism than any Tory could have ever hoped, save for maybe Thatcher. Thatcher, by the way, was a friend of Tony Blair's and hailed New Labour as one of her greatest achievements, and she was right. When the Conservatives, widely understood to be the enemies of the working class, drag us into horrific imperialist wars, privatize our public services and smash our unions, that gives us something to rally against. But when it comes from what we've been led to believe is the left, when it comes from the party we've supported, we've given our time and energy to, we've stuck our necks out for, it's humiliating. It's demoralizing. Tony Blair's tenure politically devastated the working class of this country to such
Rejoice, comrades, Parcourse language has arrived. Hi, Parcourse. How goes it? Great to see you.
a degree that we are still recovering from it. And in Labour, we are still fighting factional battles against his ilk, as they sabotage us at every turn, as this report details. I'm one of the vulnerable, poor, disabled people that the Tories push into the meat grinder every single day. And I will say unequivocally that neither Cameron, nor May, nor Johnson could ever destroy our communities like Tony Blair. I've spent my entire adult life in the northwest of England, but to drive this point home, I'd like to end this video by reading a short segment written by someone who grew up here, before Blair. This is from the intro to local poet/comedian Thick Richard's book Vaudevillain, in which he describes hearing urban legends of large cats and other wild beasts loose in the town, and growing up in a relatively impoverished place called Northern Moor in South Manchester. He remembers it as a place so wild that he thought those urban myths could really be true there. He talks about the community and the political mindedness of the place he grew up, and then he talks about moving back to that place. Post-Blair. One good memory of that place was the '96 election. It was a hot day and we'd spent the afternoon drinking in the back garden, talking about how Labour would definitely win. Things can only get better, eh, Tony? In the evening, we went off to vote. A shiny-faced Tory boy stood at the door of the polling station with a huge, ridiculous blue rosette pinned to his lapel, like an elephant's arsehole. "And I trust you'll be voting Conservative today?" he simpered smugly. My dad leant toward.
Correct, Brody. Correct. Like Helena, I agree with Helena. No justice MTG, by the way. Cameron and Osborne done more damage, nearly as much damage as her. I try not to name her. It is either her or she. I do not want to see a spectre of her appear. That's why I don't name her. I hope she's burning.
Towards him, their noses almost touching. "Fuck off," he bellowed. Well, things didn't get better, did they? They got worse. The angry young men got tired of fighting and became embarrassed old men. shamed by getting sold out by New Labour. The politicians hid. Never again would they be made to venture into the estates and have to debate face to face with their people. The working class capitalists borrowed so much invisible money to keep up their pretenses that many became sub-working class capitalists, indebted so far into the negatives it would become their grandchildren's inheritance. Issues became so complicated it felt like what was being discussed was none of our business, and many people started to shy away from political debate through fear of coming across as stupid. Then the confusing
You're
issues just
welcome,
became
Michael.
boring issues. The internet had evidence to back up every side of every argument, so everyone fell into the false security trap that they were all in the right. Communities stopped communicating, generation gaps grew, leaving room for bad ideas to breed, and now racism is an actual political opinion. We've never been so divided, and it all happened right under our noses. I moved back to Northern Moor in my early 30s. It's a sour, haunted place that would have Fergie waking up screaming. Its political
You
edge
do.
grew blunt long ago. The thugs of the neighborhood used to seem like Robin Hoods.
Fuck you, Gideon and IDS. I despise you bastards. The pair of yous tried to fucking end me. Ha! You failed. Get wrecked. Seriously, the austerity years, we were barely fucking hanging on, me and Super Hubby. We survived because of his genius and the way he set up the household. And my mum helped as well. If it wasn't for Super Hubby and my mum, I don't know what would have happened to me. Thanks, Mum. Thanks, Super Hubby. Yes, 330,000 excess deaths, anyone? I would say Rachel and Liz, but she's not the para working pensions anymore. It's fucking McFadden. So Rachel and Pat are my new targets. I am deeply terrified of what that man can do in Caxton House. Really, I am. Don't worry, I will be reporting on it. I'll be making sure I keep an eye on the bastard. But look at him, he's a fucking ghoulish looking cunt.
Their disobedience was righteous and justified. Their tempers were taut but focused on the right targets. Built for a fight if needs be, but perfectly capable of letting their words do the dirty work. They'd never be able to save up for a holiday, but the money could always be found to march on London, demand answers, and shake Tony Benn's hand. These days, they keep themselves to themselves and prey on one another. Quiet, invisible, forgotten, obedient. And so now we all just hope for the rumors to start spreading again of the wild beasts of the past, the animals of passionate anger who would have never let this happen, returning to prowl the streets again, keeping the territory safe from harm, watching the pack and planning attacks to keep the real wolves at bay, and other urban myths.
Back to far right wankery. Okay, yeah. Nice. I will save my throat and just play it. Carry on.
Online gals spread disinformation about female Israeli hostages. Since Hamas released the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza, the following rumor has spread online. Sharon never misses an opportunity to take her stupid for a very public walk. All the female hostages were released by January 2025, with the exception of the 9 who died in Israeli shelling. pic.twitter.com/3ckftbocqq. GYLL King post skip diplomacy, at GYLL King, October 13, 2025. The female hostages were already released during the last ceasefire. You fucking idiots. pic.twitter.com/UAVU7JWYL. Julian's Rum, at its Julian's Rum, October 13, 2025. Disinformation regarding Israeli hostages. As can be seen above, Olympian Sharon Davies is one of those spreading the lie. Genuine question. Should an individual lose their MBE for lying? Sharon Davies'
Yes.
MBE has been caught out telling a very dangerous lie in the middle of a peace process. And she still doesn't remove her post. pic.twitter.com/HXQR7SBA. Wait. Sandra, at Mrs. Doug Scullery, October 14, 2025. Davies is also an anti-trans rights activist or TERF. For whatever reason, there is a strong crossover between people who oppose trans rights and people who oppose the Palestinian freedom movement. Liberal feminist and beloved children's author J.K. Rowling after Israel has already killed 70,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children. Why won't these pro-Palestinian demonstrators give it a rest already? https://t.co/hvnsatd3kz.pic.twitter.com/r6fhkpound0e3. Alfred E. Newman, at Alfred Newman 77, October 6, 2025. I stand with Israel. The people coming out for Palestine today are the lowest of the low.
Fuck off, Glenner.
https://t.co/t.co/zkijccjl. Graham Linehan, at Glinner, October 7, 2025. Another person spearheading the current disinformation campaign is Laura Loomer. These are the final bosses of our free world. This cult bends reality 24/7, and it wasn't just these two. Hundreds of influencers pushed the same blatant lie in sync. Fact: all female hostages were freed months ago. In light of that, these claims are nothing short of psychotic. pic.twitter.com/xbxwvt1npe. Dr. Simon Godek, at Godekettle, October 13, 2025. There's a reason why Elon Musk decided to make likes private. There's a new script going around the block that all the female hostages have been killed. Under every single one of these posts, the top comments are frying them for straight up lying. So who's liking the posts? pic.twitter.com/xsbxdlqm9. Heijuke, at HassanKHXNX, October 13, 2025. Loomer is a key confidant of Donald Trump, and has exerted influence over who he hires and fires. Trump on Loomer. Laura has been a supporter of mine, just like a lot of people are supporters, and she's been a supporter of mine. She speaks very positively of the campaign. Laura has to say what she wants. She's a free spirit. pic.twitter.com/say9w Asin, at Asin, September 13, 2024. GB News panelist Adam Brooks also got involved. Adam Brooks is that much of a lying, shit-stirring tosser that even Julia Hartley-Brewer is calling him out. pic.twitter.com/woofut2ui26a. Ramses Niblik 3, at The Little Waster, October 13, 2025. Never ending. This latest campaign is a key example of how toxic the online space has become. Every day is a battle against waves of misinformation, with every event turned into a wedge issue by hateful weirdos with a Twitter addiction. While it's exhausting, we all need to keep pushing back against those who wage war and those who provide cover for the warmongers. Featured image via Daily Express, YouTube. Laura Loomer, YouTube.
Fucking lunatics.
incoming DWP changes are set to make it harder for disabled people, says new report. A new study from disability charity Scope has highlighted the hefty price tag of being disabled in the UK, and the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, are certainly not helping. It costs an extra £1,095 each month for disabled households to achieve the same standard of living as their non-disabled counterparts. Worse still, that gap is getting bigger year by year. DWP lead rising cost of living while disabled. Then, we can add to that the fact that most disabled people have far less money in the first place. That £1,095 makes up a staggering 67% of the average disabled household's income. £1,095 is also 8% higher than last year's total. Based on official forecasts of living costs and inflation, the price tag will have risen to £1,224 every month by the 2029 financial year. Scope also estimated that the DWP's personal independence payments, PIP, also fall some £630 short of covering those extra payments. Likewise, that shortfall is predicted to hit £704 by 2030. It's not like these costs are for luxury items, either. Scope performed its calculations based on essentials like heating, transport, care, and home adaptations. These costs act like a sinkhole for disabled people's finances, preventing them from gaining financial security or enjoying the privileges that everyone else takes for granted. Demographic disparities. There's a marked disparity in the extent to which the disability price tag tends to affect different disabled households. The report states that the poorest households are hit with extra costs equal to 202% of their income after housing costs. That's an average of £1,402 a month, just to enjoy the same living standards as a non-disabled household. For lower to middle incomes, the extra costs reach as high as £1,649 a month. Even for the highest income group, the disability price tag is around £287 per month, on average. After housing costs, that's still roughly 9% of the household's income. Likewise, the price tag also varies massively according to age. Disabled people aged 25 to 35 are hit the hardest, averaging £1,463 a month. The 45 to 54 age bracket also faces costs of over £1,200 a month. This problem is then exacerbated by the fact that the 45-54s tend to support other dependents, like their children and parents. Pathways to work. The DWP are currently planning a massive shakeup of benefits like universal credit health payments and PIP. It's all laid out in the new Pathways to Work, Reforming Benefits and Support to Get Britain Working Green Paper. Unfortunately, Scope's research showed that, you guessed it, Labour's planned changes are likely to make things much worse. Obviously we weren't really imagining that Starmer's Labour would do something wild like making life better for disabled people. However, the sheer extent of the proposed cuts is staggering. The average reduction in payments looks set to add up to around £4,500 a year for most disabled households. Scope's research found that, for the estimated 400,000 disabled people set to lose their PIP benefit payments, we estimate the average loss of PIP income will be £520 per month, a total loss of £6,240 in the 2029 to 2030 financial year. In the 2029 to 2030 financial year, on average, these disabled households stand to face extra costs of £1,224 per month without any benefit support. This warning is stark. Disabled people are faced with ever-increasing extra costs, coupled with a government that plans to pull the rug out from under them. Bodies like the Public and Commercial Services Union, the Union of Shop, Distributive and Allied Workers, the National Union of Journalists, and Unison have already come out swinging against the Green Paper.
That's the PCSU, or the PCU, which is one of the largest unions in the UK. That's Union of Shops, Distributive and Allied Workers, that's USDAW. My sister used to work for USDAW as a training officer. And the NUJ, National Union of Journalists, and Unison cover a lot of different sectors. Sharon Graham, she'll be dealt with, don't you worry.
For its part, Scope has stated that this is a problem that benefits alone can't fix. The charity argues that society must view the problem holistically. We need to look ways to ensure that disabled people have equal access to housing, work, transport, and security. If not, that gap will widen ever further, and disability will continue to come with an unjust price tag for years to come. Featured image via Unsplash, Tim Mossholder.
I can't remember if I've got anything else. Give me a second. Oh, that's the last one. My benefit, mine's personally, my one that I got paid, well, technically yesterday now, comes from the Scottish Government. I did used to get PIP, but that I don't get PIP anymore. I get adult disability payment and I get the full award. I was left on the lowest amount from the Department of Work and Pensions for fucking years. And at certain points, I got denied that due to manual review. Fucking sucked. For the best part of 7 months, me and Super Hubby were without money. And that includes housing and council tax benefits. So our rent and our council tax went unpaid. We didn't get any money coming into the household. It all got rebated, all got brought back. And the arrears were paid off. Just means you're an ungrateful customer. No, it isn't, Gideon. And IDS, the pair of you are fucking scum. I despise yous. And fuck you, Starmer. We could have got rid of IDS. We could have had Pfizer. So fuck you. Urgh. Hmm. Right. Oh, yeah. I can't stand these bastards. They see me as a useless eater and they can fuck off. I'm helping. I'm educating the masses. Showing you all the little tricks. Telling you where they're being bastards. Saying, yeah, carry on, do that, see what fucking happens. You're just radicalising parts of the society, by the way, Stammer. So get wrecked. Carry on playing into Manfrog and all his little bullshits. Just Just realised there's a growing left-wing campaign happening. The Greens, the Scottish Greens, the SNP, left-wing or socialist independence. You're still losing councillors, by the way, here. The local elections are going to be fun for you, I feel. Plus Holyrood and us. I hope you fucking get ruined. I really do. You're a little puppet. You and Jackie are coming for you. Ha ha ha. This conference is going to be so fucking important this weekend. Don't you worry, I will be recording it. I will be there talking to people. Yes, correct, Brody. Correct. All that poll is ringing. I will go and relieve myself. I will be back momentarily. Bio break. Give me a minute or two. Owen! We are lovely twins. Oh, please, my help. Rejoice! Democracy reigns. We have chosen Owen. Ooh, Benjamin. That? Ori Goldberg? That'll take me over my 3 hour limit. Benjamin.
Millions of people all over the world have been marching against Israel's genocide. What happens now to that movement, which wasn't just against the genocide, of course, it was against Israel's occupation, apartheid, dispossession of the Palestinian people, which goes back generations. At the absolute forefront in Britain has been, of course, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, which has mobilized vast numbers of people. Ben Jamal here, the leader of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. But look, the demonization we have seen, the turning of the world upside down, that those who oppose genocide are hateful, dangerous extremists, has been quite something. And there is an attempt to, well, we're seeing the imposition of even more stringent anti-protest laws. What happens next, though? Because now there's this, everyone should go home. There's peace, is there not? This is the whole narrative. Let's talk about that. Ben, firstly, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thanks, John.
Good to see you as well, Owen. And it's the day before a demonstration, so it's my easy answer is I'm very busy, but I'm delighted to have the time to speak to you.
Well, exactly. It was obviously very important to talk about that demonstration. So this demonstration is taking place on the 11th of October. Even if people are watching after, this still matters. But if people are watching before, go and protest, first of all. But why? So this is the whole claim now. It's like, well, this just shows this wasn't about peace. You got your peace, did you not? That's the whole kind of narrative. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, and I've been asked this question quite a bit in the last 2 days, sometimes in a hostile way, by journalists saying, well, there's no reason for you to protest anymore. But also genuinely people asking, well, is the demonstration going ahead and what next? And look, let me just say this, because first of all, how do we respond to this ceasefire? So people, and we expect a very, very large demonstration tomorrow, maybe one of the biggest we've had. And I think people will be coming, first of all, sharing with the Palestinian people their sense of relief, and even, and I'm going to caveat this, but even some degree of joy. We saw people dancing on the streets of Khan Yunis, that we may have a ceasefire. And that means that, as one Palestinian put it, people have the capacity to start to think about tomorrow and the day after. Maybe very soon Palestinian parents will feel I don't any longer need to write the name of my children on their arm in case they get blown to smithereens, and there will be something recognizable that can be buried. But we also share their trepidation, rooted in the knowledge that Israel has violated every single ceasefire agreement that it has ever signed. And I'm hearing this morning already, despite the agreement, the shelling of Palestinians who are trying to walk back towards their homes. But also,
You can see that from that one from the Canary that I played, that we basically read. These right-wing fucking the word freaks, essentially, these fucking lunatics and psychopaths. They are not above literally fucking lying about shit that's happening. It's been proven. We have many fucking receipts of them doing this online, on a public stage, no less. Saying, "Oh, you're just being mean to me." No, we're calling you out for shit you've actually said online, which is literally going out and shouting it in a square, out in the street, in a pub, in a restaurant even. So no, we're just calling you out for what you've actually said. That's been documented. You've literally tweeted this shit. You put it online. You put it on YouTube. You put it on Twitch. You put it on Facebook. You put it in newspapers. We are literally calling you out for it. You were the one that done it. You said this crazy shit. And we're just saying that's incorrect. You are lying. You're being a propagandist piece of shit. Stop being mean to me. Fuck off. We're calling you out for your BS. Get fucking used to it. We're going to be doing it more. Cops wore my fucking arse. We're calling you out in your BS. You're literally lying. Do not at me. We're just calling you out for what you're actually saying.
We are sharing with the Palestinian people, and this gets to the root of the question of why would you carry on demonstrating, that we know this sort of so-called peace plan of Donald Trump's is nothing of the sort. It's because it's not a pathway to an enduring peace, because it's not dealing with the root.
Brody, my comrade, in yourself. Absolutely correct. And we will carry on. Myself, I can't. I am still going to go to the conference and try my best. Trust me on that one. But I will still be here to promote the truth, to actually tell you how it actually is, and give my own little opinion for what it's worth. Trust me, there's more than me actually doing this shit. Well, we're better at it. But being a voice, they're calling out their absolute people like Ben as well, and Lynn, literally reporting on this on a daily basis. Seriously, I don't know how one could fucking do it. He must be knackered. Really damned, I killed myself this weekend. I will try my best to you. I'll be limiting myself. I won't be tomorrow. There will be no Katie tomorrow. Sorry. There will be no Mad Cat. You might get me on Thursday, where I'll do a double feature of like question time and debate night, which happens on a Wednesday night. You will be seeing me on Friday. I will direct you to where you can see me. I'll be doing Kane with Raptor and Gnome Pickles and Mongo and Atomic Pluton. I will direct you over to Raptor stream. Midnight UK time. A bit late, but we went for the majority. I'm fine with that. I'm usually up at midnight anyway.
Causes of
I don't
violence.
Ben one.
It has nothing to say about the ongoing occupation, nothing to say about what is happening right now in the West Bank and has been happening for decades, nothing to say about the system of apartheid that exists all over historic Palestine. And our message consistently has been that we've been protesting to try to bring an end to a genocide, but on the basis of a message that the foundations of this genocide are 77 years of racist oppression of the Palestinian people. And our campaign, which will continue, is for that to end, for the system of apartheid to be dismantled, for the occupation to be ended, and for the Palestinian people to be able to enjoy their rights of self-determination and the fundamental right for those who've been expelled and their descendants, including every single one of my family, to be able to return to the land from which their families were expelled in 1948. I
mean, this, demonization of these protests, and it's really important to note that these vast protests, a real cross-section of British society, they include people who are Christian, Muslim, and Jewish. There's always Jewish protesters who are there, proudly holding banners such as Jews Against Genocide, very much visibly and proudly Jewish, as well as non-believers and so on. But just one example, I mean, some might just say, why bring this person up because they're such a troll, but they're a columnist. They're a journalist at the Mail on Sunday, which is the biggest Sunday newspaper in the country. And that's Dan Hodges, who says the demonstrations will continue regardless of a peace agreement. The reason they'll continue is because they were never about peace and always about intimidating Jews. Just for context, just to show the sort of thing you can say in the British media, he was asked, for example, about the civilian population of Gaza, including hundreds of thousands of children, can just go to hell, right? And he said, yes, basically. This is previous things he said. when he said, opposing all reconstruction. Someone said that's collective punishment. He said fine. He went. Someone said, I feel sorry for the ordinary Palestinians. They've been cynically used by Hamas and Iran. He said, I've got to be honest, my sympathy for, in quotes, ordinary Palestinians is pretty low this morning. And it's just an example, isn't it? It's just the world turned on its head. People can say anything about Palestinians in the Western media, however depraved, however racist, and they're claiming that the real hateful, dangerous extremists are people who are opposed to terrible, terrible crimes being committed by the West.
Yeah, and look, this sort of demonization that begins in the first place of an attempt to demonize and delegitimize Palestinians and their struggle. In its most pernicious form, the narrative that we're not really a real people, we're a fake people. We've constructed an identity just because we hate Israelis and Jewish people.
A little bit of context here. There's Palestina, all the way back to the Roman Republic days. Literally the Roman Republic, which is thousands of years ago, a couple of thousand years ago. People have always existed there. Jewish, well, Christianity and Muslim didn't exist at this point, but there was always people there. There was nomadic tribes. Don't get me wrong, they used that. Oh, they were all nomadic. No, they weren't. People were actually settled there 2,500 years ago. Amateur historians like me can point this out, let alone actual academics and actual historians. And Israel are not above using the historical record to spin a narrative. I despise that. I've done history research before, just for myself because I'm a nerd. I love history. Those who are not deemed to heed history are doomed to repeat it. We can see it happening today. Delightful as always. People like me will always stand against them, really. Yes, it started that fucking early. It's delightful, isn't it? Correct, Gemma. Come at me. Come at us. Seriously. Lots of us have done research into this in our own amateur capacity. Because I've done research before. I know how to do it. I know how to catalogue it. Come at me. Seriously. I know quite a bit about the history of that area because I'm a Hellenistic nerd. I know I studied that just for myself, not as part of an academic career, just because I was interested in it. Yes, I guess you 100 years before that. Oh, that legend they set up, fucking delightful. Wolf Mother, fucking love it. People use it as a meme. It's just funny. I love it. But yeah, there's always been people there. We have evidence. I don't care what fucking Israel's saying, whatever fucking right-wing quack archaeologists they fucking hire. Most of them aren't even archaeologists, by the way. We are here to counter you, by the way. People who have done actual academic research and actual digs there that you've allowed in. They've done their actual examination and done reports. They've done academic papers on it. You've denounced them. You know they weren't against how we allowed them in and stuff. No, you gave them access and said carry on what you're doing. And just because you don't like what they said doesn't make it any less valid. So get wrecked.
And you'll see that replicated across the Israeli
There's people living there in
political
Babylonian times,
establishment.
by the way.
But look, this demonization that follows on from that of those acting in solidarity has always existed. Very early on in these demonstrations, it was across the political establishment,
Gemma.
the media, the attempt to call this hate marches, anti-Semites, terrorist sympathizers. You remember all of this leading up to the demonstration in November. Suella Braverman saying, you know, these people, even suggesting that waving a Palestinian flag could be an anti-Semitic act. And then in a sense, although that hasn't gone away,
They keep on forgetting that. The people who live there and the people who use these languages are Semites. Semitic just doesn't mean Jews, by the way. It means other people from that area that aren't Jewish. They're Muslims, they're Christians, they're Babylonians, they're Sumerians, they're Canaanites. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Plenty of evidence to counter you on that one. Oh, I use Phoenician and Babylonian interchangeably. Maybe I shouldn't, because they both coexisted at the same time. People connect more with Babylonian as a grouping than Phoenician. I really should use Phoenician more than anything. There was distinct groups back then. Phoenician would be a more accurate sort of umbrella. Oh God, it was one of one of the thriving cosmopolitan areas, even under the fucking Byzantines, even during the fucking Crusades, for crying out loud. So no, get wrecked. And we've got lots of documentation about the Crusades. There have been people there for fucking thousands of years. So fuck off. We were promised this land. Fuck off. There's actual Jewish scholars who are discounting it, who are countering what you're saying across the globe. Actual Jewish philosophers and rabbis and scholars saying, no, you're incorrect there. Not what the Torah says, not conclusively at least. Yeah. I do like the images of the Second Temple before it got destroyed. Thanks, Rome. Secular, non-theocratic democracy for that area would be a good thing, in my opinion. Can we get it? Well, it's what we're all trying to get, I would assume. Not a fucking ethno-national state, please. Fuck off.
because
under
that
these
has not
bastards,
succeeded in stopping people marching, and because the reality that these are, as you say, demonstrations from people from all areas of society, young and old, mostly orderly and peaceful demonstrations, many Jewish people marching, because the reality of that is very clear. It's lost its power. In fact, we had a bizarre situation just a few weeks ago where, in an attempt to justify the illegitimate prescription of Palestine action, we have the Home Secretary, it was Yvette Cooper, saying, no, we have a problem with groups like Palestine Action. We have absolutely no problem with those protesting in these marches, which are orderly and peaceful. So in a sense, she was trying to sort of contrast our marches with a group that she wanted to prescribe. Now suddenly, and what's most grotesque about this is the utilization, and look, let's describe it for what it is, the weaponization of this grotesque racist attack on a synagogue in Manchester, to utilize that again to demonize the movement, to say there is some linkage. And I would say this, those who rightly condemn the racist violence we saw in Manchester 2 weeks ago, have no moral foundation on which to do so if they are supportive of Israel's genocide, supportive of Israel's system of apartheid, and utilizing the kind of narratives about Palestinians that you've just described.
Sorry, I have to watch cricket in the
You have
morning.
no consistency. And from the start, we have been very clear. What are the principles on which we're marching? They are principles that say we stand against what Israel is doing, not because we hate Jewish people or hate Israelis, but because we hate apartheid. We hate racist systems of oppression. And we think standing up to racism anywhere involves standing up to racism and racist systems of oppression everywhere. That's why we've been marching and will continue to protest until that system of racist oppression is fully dismantled.
I mean, it really does speak, doesn't it, to the total dehumanization of the Palestinian people. I mean, 13 Hiroshimas worth of explosives have been dropped in an area the size of East London. It's been wiped from the face of the earth more comprehensively than any territory in human history. Countless, literally uncounted numbers of people being exterminated, vast numbers of them children. A live stream genocide, all the war crimes you could possibly think of, a consensus of genocide scholars saying it's genocide, the International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrants for war crimes and crimes against humanity, a genocide obviously case at the International Court of Justice, and the idea is why would you still protest? But as if one of the great crimes of our time hasn't just been facilitated by Western governments, notwithstanding the historic oppression of the Palestinian people. It'd be, it's just the way anti-Palestinian dehumanization is just so normalized that could in any way the idea people would need to protest be portrayed as anything other than the most obviously normal thing you could possibly do in these circumstances.
Yeah, and look, we saw this. I mean, I'm going to take this back a bit. One of the narratives that's been resurrected in the past few days, because we are approaching the 2-year anniversary of this genocide beginning, is the narrative that PSC began organizing the first march on October the 7th and protested on October the 9th. And the narrative is, well, why would you do that when nothing had happened to Palestinians by then? And the reality that ignores is, on October the 7th, over 500 Palestinians had already been slaughtered by Israel. It began its military response immediately. We'd already had statements of genocidal intent. Benjamin Netanyahu said on October the 7th, we are going to target each and every corner of the Gaza Strip. There will be, we will turn it into a deserted island. Everything that they've done. Yoav Gallant was already saying we're cutting off all supplies, all food, all water.
Human animals.
We're dealing with human animals. So we were already seeing, and so the sort of message is, why would you be organizing a protest about that?
It was
of course, that what happened on October the 6th and the 5th and the 4th, that's normalized. That the fact that the Palestinian people, we hear the narrative that Hamas broke a ceasefire. There was no ceasefire. Israel killed 250 Palestinians in the West Bank between January the 1st and October the 6th, 2023, including dozens of children. That's 40 so children. In a sense, Palestinians are supposed to accept that, the normal daily grind of occupation. And you cannot sustain an occupation or a system of apartheid upon a people who legitimately want to resist the imposition of that system without brutal violence. You've just been out there. You've seen the reality of what that brutal violence looks like. But all of that is normalized. And what we're seeing right now, or what we're about to see, is going to be an attempt, because we may be at a point where the mass death of Palestinians through starvation might be prevented because aid might be able to get in. So people are not going to be confronted with scenes of starving children every day. Maybe this ceasefire will hold and we will not have a daily toll of massacres. But there will be an attempt then across the political establishment to say everything's back to normal. Why are you talking to us about not selling arms to Israel? Why are you telling us that we should be employing sanctions, ignoring the reality of the ongoing occupation? July 2024, the ICJ ruled on what we already knew. It's entirely illegal, but said that there's a responsibility on every state not to take a single action that aids and abets its occupation, which means comprehensive sanctions, a full arms embargo. That situation has not altered. So the responsibilities of our government are exactly the same as they were last week, exactly the same as they were before this genocide began. What we've seen through this genocide is what happens when you grant a state impunity for carrying out a system of racist oppression that, as you rightly say, is fundamentally has to be built on dehumanizing those you're oppressing. You have to stop regarding as human beings. That's now widespread across Israeli society. 2 months ago, there was an opinion poll that should have been shocking, barely registered. 82% of Israeli Jews supported the idea of expelling every Palestinian. 2 million people ethnically cleansed from Gaza. 56% said that Palestinian citizens of Israel should be expelled. 47%, nearly half of Israeli Jews, said they thought Israel had the right to slaughter every Palestinian in the towns and cities that it occupied. Now think about the level of dehumanization that must exist and have been normalized across the society for people to be quite comfortable to say, yeah, we should slaughter all of them.
I mean, one of the things which you kind of alluded to there as well is that after these, heinous live streamed war crimes on a daily basis, there's been an unprecedented shift against Israel and Western public opinion, with the vast majority of people in Britain, for example, being very clear that Israel has committed war crimes, that an arms embargo should be imposed, that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested for war crimes and crimes against humanity. But now, there will be a determined attempt to kind of roll that back, because obviously the fear, the rational fear of Israel's cheerleaders is that will materialize into proper pressure to end all British and Western complicity in Israel's subjugation of the Palestinian people. So one of the important things of this movement is to not let that happen, to not let the truth about what Israel has done with Western complicity and facilitation be erased.
No, that's absolutely right. And look, Donald Trump acknowledged that in what he said this week. He said that he had pressured Netanyahu to accept the deal by saying to him, you can't fight the entire world. So what he was saying is you are completely isolated now. Netanyahu, several weeks ago, made his speech, the so-called Sparta speech, where he said they're going to sanction us. They're all going to sanction us, but we're ready to fight that. We'll become Sparta,
I heard doggles. Unless it's outside. I know it's not from Owen's flat. He's only got cats. Maybe it's Ben's flat. Maybe Ben's got doggles. Do you have doggles, Ben? Give them a scratch. If there are dogs on the outside too.
So Israel has become completely isolated. And look, we know what has motivated so many people to become engaged in solidarity actions, to march, to protest, has been what they've seen of the horror of this genocide. And our task, we know when that's not visible to people every day, there is a risk that their attention shifts. But what we have to do is remind people of the realities I've just talked about, that all of this is built on a foundation of a system of racist oppression that still exists, that we are enabling, that we are complicit in, our government, our public bodies, our companies and corporations. So we have to keep the foot on the pedal of all of the attempts to impose sanctions and processes of boycott and divestment on Israel in the same way that happened globally against South African apartheid. And look, Israel, across the Israeli political establishment, is a desire, as some Israeli ministers have put it, we need to complete the job. We have to complete the Nakba. In other words, we have not succeeded in erasing the Palestinian people. We need to expel all of those we can, kill those we can't expel. That's been halted at the moment. But if Israel gets another chance, if the world allows it once again to continue to sustain, then it's not unrealistic to say it will turn again to genocide if it is not held accountable for the genocide it's already committed. So these things are fundamental, and that's the task for everyone. That's what I want people to bring tomorrow to the streets of London. But then we need the sustained body of campaigning, which we've already got in place. 20 local councils have now under pressure from their local community, said they're going to divest from Israeli companies. The co-op has taken Israeli goods off its shelf. There's been a 17% decline in the import of Israeli goods. There's a conversation now about Israel being kicked out of Eurovision, maybe out of UEFA. All of these levers of pressure we have to keep up, because this will not end. This is rooted in a fundamental injustice founded on notions of racist supremacy. And I'll say one final thing. There's a reason why the Israeli government has invited Tommy Robinson to Israel, because they share the same ideology of ethno-nationalism. And this is, people have got to realize, we're not just fighting here for the rights of the Palestinian people. We're fighting for what type of world we want to inhabit.
Amen. And just one other thing there on, in terms of what happens next. I mean, Israel, by preventing, for example, reconstruction in Gaza, that would mean the mass deaths of huge numbers of people, which is obviously itself genocidal. Just one final thing. It's about the anti-protest laws that we're seeing already. You know, before the genocide began, we'd already had a battery of, under New Labour, terrorism legislation, which was used against protesters, as people predicted it would be. And then, under the Tories Policing Act, for example, all again suffocating the ability of people to protest. Now we've of course had the prescription of Palestine Action.
Yes, both the Tories previously and now the Labour government. Please remember, for those of you who are old enough and who are British, Tony Blair ran on a campaign in his manifesto to repeal all the shit that Thatcher done in regards to union activities and things. He said he'd repeal them. Did he? Did he bollocks? Yes, Blair, we remember. You're scum. I voted for a Labour candidate, by the way, back in '97. I was but a fledgling. I was 18 when that '97 election happened, by the way. Delightful. I hate Labour now. They're scum. They're carrying on what the Tories started, but with sad face. We have to do this to balance the books. Do you balance? Don't need to be doing this to us. Trust me on that one. We'll call you out for it. Trust me. One of the main reasons I fucking exist is to counter you. Rachel Reeves, Pat McFadden now, and Keir Starmer, and Wes Streeting. Can you fucking hear me? Can you dig it? If I can set it up correctly, would anyone be interested in having a movie night through Discord with me? I have a vast array of movies and movie series sitting right there, less than 2 feet away from my face. I've got lots of DVDs. I've probably got a lot of different. I know I've got a lot of different genres sitting right next to me.
And now they're proposing even more anti-protest laws. Just what's going on, and why is this so important?
This is really fundamental what they're proposing to do. So what we're anticipating, there's a crime and policing bill going through Parliament at the moment. It's in the Lords again next Thursday. What we think the government is going to do is stick down a new amendment to that gives the police additional powers to stop protests on the grounds of cumulative disruption. Now, the police are already trying to use these powers, we think, illegally. This is going to give them primary legislation to back their ability to do it. What does that mean? Well, it could have extraordinary implications. It could mean that if you've organised a protest at Downing Street, and then you want to organise another one, that the police could say, well, that's a cumulative disruption. You are disturbing that community, the community around Whitehall. So we have the power now to say you can't protest because you've already protested once. We have had a proposal for us to march from Whitehall to the Israeli embassy turned down by the police on the grounds that there is a synagogue that we pass within 15 minutes of on the route. And that's a cumulative disruption to that synagogue. Now, part of
Rejoice, comrades! Razor is here. What's up, indeed? Hello. How goes it? Exactly, Razor. How many times, indeed? Apparently with impunity. That is fun. Correct. People like me, people like us are here to counter them. Of course. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing? Great to see you.
our answer was, we haven't marched on this route for over a
Hi.
year. They said, it doesn't matter. You have been disturbing other people within the Jewish community across London. So this is an argument potentially for saying, if you've marched once on an issue in London, you could potentially say, well, you've had your protest. And if you think about this, why do people march? Why do we protest? Because we are trying to build a body of pressure. But that requires sustained protests. Somebody reminded me the other day, the suffragettes achieved their first victory really in 1918, where there was the first moves to properly recognizing women's right to suffrage. They began protesting in 1906, 12 years of sustained protest. Imagine if there'd been a law saying, you've already marched once, you told us you want the vote, you can't march again. So this has really, really serious implications. The police already have more than enough powers. They've imposed draconian restrictions on us. A few weeks ago,
Ah, my MP's following the party line. Delightful. Oi, Maureen, you're meant to represent your people. She ain't. She's definitely not representing me. Well, technically I didn't vote for her. Well, I don't secret poll all that bollocks. If I want people to know how I voted, I have no problem letting people know how I vote. Super Happy doesn't want people to know how he voted, and I would never betray that trust. But I am upfront of who I voted for. In the last general election, last summer, last July, I voted for the SNP because I thought my SNP MP done quite well for us. She was quite good. Her name was Anne McLaughlin, by the way. I do not like my Labour one. Feel free to check her out. Her name is Maureen Burke. Glasgow North East, if you're interested. Feel free to check her out if you like. Or if you want me to, I can show you her voting record if you want.
we had a condition imposed an hour before a protest that we couldn't use any amplified equipment. They tried to stop us using megaphones. And the rationale was President Herzog was speaking to Chatham House. It will disturb this particular community. I said, well, this is the community I'm here to disturb. I want to disturb President Herzog. I want him to hear me. And I want to disturb the people who've invited a war criminal to speak to them. So we are in a really, really serious situation. There's a whole body of civil liberty groups that are sounding the alarm on this. This law has to be stopped. And we have to push back against all of the restrictive legislation that is already.
Apparently, Razor. The police are out of control, Brody. Well, you're not here. I'll bring it back up and I'll show you the headline and I can give you a link to it if you like. Under Police Scotland, they're not terrorists. They failed to reach that criteria under Scots law and the way Police Scotland actually operate. So the police down in England and Wales, they beg to differ. Hence arresting blind, disabled wheelchair users. Delightful. Arresting 83-year-old fucking Vickers. Arresting nurses, doctors, Fucking social workers. Delightful. The people who keep this country running, essentially. Calling them people terrorists? What the fuck? Just, no, no. If you're peaceful and not causing an issue, just protesting, holding the signs up, just sitting there saying that you support them. No, you're allowed to protest up here, which is good. You won't get arrested. If you start causing issues like being too loud, disrupting the normal movement of people, but if you're just there in an area holding up the signs, if people come up to them and ask you, I agree with you, and saying, yes, do you want to join us? That's what's been happening essentially. They're not causing a problem. People are going up and talking to them. How do I know this? I know friends who live near me. I've actually went to talk to them. Admittedly, one of them might have been a journalist. Oh God, you won't get the ticker. Local newspaper for here in Glasgow. It's a left-wing publication that gets actually printed. It's an actual printed newspaper. It might be small. Ah, A5, A5. And they've been reporting on it, saying they're being peaceful. People going up and talk to them, saying, oh, right. Yeah, I don't like it either. And some of them have been giving out leaflets saying, read these things. And that's all they've been doing. Not causing a problem, just sitting there protesting. Literally just sitting there. Some of them on the ground, some of them on little chairs, directors' chairs, some of them. Just sitting there, protesting, not causing an issue. Correct, Razor. That is the issue. Trying to change the way an entire government or like governments change from different political parties to the next, essentially getting that to change takes a while, unfortunately, especially here in the UK. It takes years, which sucks. Don't get me wrong. We're still going to fucking do it. We're still going to try to change the government's opinion. The best work that can be done is actual legal experts and academics. Correct, Razor. The condition of some of these people getting released by the Israeli government, holy fuck. Basically the same as Auschwitz or Bergen-Belsen back in the Second World War, which is before the founding of Israel by 4 or 5 years. These people came out skeletal, severely malnourished, and depleted of vital biological processes, essentially. Basically tortured. Some of them literally tortured. This country should be brought to heel and literally dismantled, in my opinion. And don't call me anti-Semitic, any of you fucking bastards. I am not anti-Semitic in any sort of fashion. what this country are doing to their detainees and to their actual citizens. They're brainwashing the vast majority of Israeli citizens. They're feeding this propaganda to them on a daily basis. They're treating these prisoners, they're torturing them. Doesn't have any right to exist, in my opinion.
In existence.
Amen to that. Well, this is why it's so important if people are listening to this before the protest on the 11th of October. We'll put the description, the link to the details
Correct,
of the
Fraser.
protest. So make sure you tell people, spread the word, and people should be aware that you have protested against one of the great crimes of our age, and it has been instrumental in transforming. But this is what's been interesting, actually. It's been in conjunction with the Palestinian journalists of Gaza, the bravest journalists the world has ever seen, who've been exterminated by showing the world what's happened. And there's been this incredible kind of, movement, which is joining those Palestinian journalists and showing what they've done and the people on the streets. And that together has shifted Western public opinion, and pro-Israel cheerleaders know that, and they're panicking about it. That's why we have to build the pressure now, not just to end the genocide, but also, of course, the subjugation of the Palestinian people full stop. So please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts and your comments. Share the video. All of that's important to get the word out. But cheers, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Owen.
Thank you, Owen, and thank you, Ben. Praise be. This one is fun.
Tony
Go
Blair
on,
as
Owen.
the colonial dictator of Gaza. This is the insane proposition being seriously promoted by Donald Trump and the like. Now, Blair is close to Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has previously stated that Gaza waterfront property could be very valuable. I was on Good Morning Britain on ITV today debating this with Robert Clark.
Correct, Fraser. Ah, I want to pin that. Oh, let me. Damn it, not one. I don't know why I've stopped. I can't seem to pin it. Only my mods can now, which is weird. Fraser, would you like to be a mod? I used to just bestow this on people, but I ask first now. Fraser, would you like to be a mod? If you don't want to be, don't worry. You're still welcome. You'll pin it. Pin Fraser's last comment. Keep it. Hands up. Carry on,
Who's
Owen.
a defence fellow at the Yorktown Institute, which is a hawkish pro-war think tank.
And I like Tony. I've always liked Tony, but I want to find out that he's an acceptable choice to everybody.
So, what do you think? Could Tony
No,
Blair
he
bring
isn't.
peace to the region? We'll give you the results of our phone poll on this.
No. That's bits. Hang on. Um, um, no, no. Um, I'll get to that later. I have to VIP you off stream. I'll get you for the next stream that I do, which will probably be on Thursday night. I can make you VIP. You have to work for it. Oh God, this fucking lunatic. Carry on, Owen.
In about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, former Labour supporter Owen Jones, who's writing a book on the Middle East, says that Blair just creates chaos in the region. But Iraq war veteran Robert Clark says the former PM has all the contacts to help end the conflict and move things forward. And I'd like to start with you. We heard this morning that the Deputy President of the Palestinian Authority is also head of the PLO Executive Committee, so he carries a lot of weight. Hussein al-Sheikh, very happy, he says, to work with Tony Blair. If it's good enough for him, why isn't it good enough for you?
I've just come back from the West Bank, actually, travelling all around, and I have to say the Palestinian Authority is monstrously unpopular amongst Palestinians. There hasn't been an election to elect those who govern them for what, nearly 20 years now. So I don't think that's representative of the Palestinian people at all. You know, I was in Iraq a few weeks ago, and when people found out I was British, they said things like,
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised either, Razor. I wouldn't. Epstein book anyone or the Epstein list. Yes, Brody. How do you think you got all those fucking contacts? You might have went in willingly with W with George Bush Jr. We already had assets in place before we actually went in. We had assets in place all across the countries around there, Iraq, maybe some in Iran, a good few in the Kingdom or Saudi Arabia, some in Yemen and Kuwait, and some, obviously, a good few in Israel and Syria. We already had people in there. Ah, Rejoice, comrades. Rachel Atwood is here. Hi, Rachel, darling. How are you doing? Yes, I'm doing quite well, even though I tried to kill myself over the weekend. I'm doing quite well. I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow. I'll stream on Thursday. Correct, Reason. I do not want to give any more power to that fucking ghoul. Just go away and manage your property portfolio, you absolute wank. My life was moderately okay when Blair was Prime Minister and Gordon Brown. Then it all went to shit in 2010. That coalition government, I despise it. But Blair set it all up, essentially. They just ramped up policies he already had in place. Thanks, Blair, you absolute fucking bastard. I'll keep on saying this to the day I die. I'm here to counter these fuckers. Come at me. Yes, have it taxed to oblivion.
you destroyed this country. I found myself apologising, even though I marched about 20 times against the Iraq war. Tony Blair presided over a war sold on a pack of lies, which was illegal, which resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, both because of the direct military violence, but as was impressed on me, the sectarian bloodbath, which people very much squarely blamed on Western policy. My view is, I think rather than being the colonial ruler of Gaza, he should be in The Hague tried for war crimes. More importantly, though, that is the view of millions of people in the Middle East. And I just feel, let's be just a controversial view here.
We can change the focus if you want, Razor. I was going to email Sandy in the morning. I've been trying to draft it properly. My mind keeps on going off in tangents, and I've been curating a list of what we can talk about, with what happens here in Scotland and the UK wider, and what they're like over in Canada. I will get back. I will get to her. Don't you worry. Thank you for that, by the way, Rachel. Much appreciated.
I think Palestine should be run by Palestinians with democratic elections for them to decide who rules them with their own state, their own homeland, not a colonial administration.
They had them and they ended up with Hamas.
Well, you mean in 2006 you had elections. The most popular person to take over in Palestine is someone called Marwan Barghouti, who is imprisoned by Israel. He would defeat, according to polls, both Hamas and Fatah, who rule overall, but they won't release him. He's the Palestinian Nelson Mandela.
OK, so when President Trump says, I'm going to consider whether Tony Blair is acceptable to everyone, clearly not acceptable to Owen, acceptable to you, Robert?
I think more acceptable than most. I think, look,
Not acceptable to me, and I fairly believe to the Palestinian people as well, of many different types. Yay! Sandy's 6 hours behind, isn't she? I believe correctly. Correct. Yeah. Just ask any other British citizen, my dude. There was a reason that a million, I repeat, a million people marched against this war that he instigated, that he joined, essentially. Don't know if he, maybe instigated, partly instigated. 1 million people, 1 million British citizens. Nothing to be sneezed at. Yeah, I don't want him in charge. Just fuck off. And please stop using the fucking Tony Blair Institute. What the actual fuck? 5 hours behind. Also, she's closer to the Atlantic than she is to the Pacific. Cool. Thank you, Rachel. You are mental.
have to take emotion out of the equation here and be a bit more realistic in how we approach this, in the sense of who else is better qualified on the international circuit. You know, Tony Blair, like him or not, he has 20 plus years of diplomatic international experience. He has phenomenal contact with both.
Why do you think he has all those fucking contacts? The British state does exist, unfortunately. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could fucking spit. And I definitely don't want him anywhere near any form of fucking power or control. I don't. I despise the bastard. And I'm pretty sure quite a lot of Palestinians despise him as well. Yes, 7 figures of blood on his hands. Tony Blair, fuck off. Just go away. See, I keep on equating Sandy with Well, Igloo BC is clear enough. That's British Columbia. He's clear on the other side. Mayor McCheese, I think he's 6 or 7 hours. I can't remember where Maple is. Is he 6 hours? I think he might be 6 hours behind us. So Sandy's the closest to us. Cool. Makes it easier if they're closer to basically GMT or well the clocks change at the end of this month, so in a couple of weeks' time.
Business, political, charity, NGO elites across the region.
You served in Iraq.
I did.
Do you recognise Owen's description of that conflict?
I respect Owen's opinion about it. I think the difference is, whilst Owen marched, I fought, and I think the difference is, having been to the country and seen it firsthand in its worst days, and the memory of Tony Blair and the legacy of the British and the American war in Iraq isn't as one-sided as some people paint. I still speak to people in Iraq, people who I know, Iraqis, who have come to England as well since, and they're grateful, for example, the opportunities of Saddam Hussein being removed and a civil society returning to Iraq, which...
Correct, Roddy. Correct. Either slightly under or slightly over 1 million dead. Hundreds of thousands displaced. Lots of people fled Iraq. Some of them did manage to make it here to the UK, oddly enough. Thank fuck for that. Quite a lot of interpreters, because they feared for their lives for some funny reason. I wonder how that happened. But 1 million dead, essentially. Hundreds of thousands fucking displaced, scattered to the four winds. Any reckoning for them? Not as far as I can see. Iraq still looks in a fucking mess. Correct, Fraser. Global hegemon, anyone. We are here to change that. My dude, you are acting like a fucking psycho.
we can see, hopefully, the embers of starting in Gaza.
Do you think that Blair deserves a shot at redemption? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's a case of a shot at redemption. I think it's more a case of he is the practical option on board. He has phenomenal experiences in these issues. He was obviously the special envoy for the quartet. And
Again, how do you think he fucking built up those fucking contacts? These bastards. Yes, consequences are for other people, after all. Yeah. Delightful, as always. We need to get rid of these fucking ghouls and sign them to the dustbin of history. Just fuck off. Fine, you have every right to live. Just get the fuck out of my politics. Stay off the geopolitical stage, if you please, Tony Blair. Just go away. Fuck off. The fact that he's been promoted for this is fucking ludicrous. Of the highest fucking order. Ugh. Most of the, in my opinion at least, most of what's been happening in the either Middle East or Western Asia as a I interchange. I don't want to, because people still call it the Middle East, which is, or Western Asia, or Eastern Europe if you want. Most of the shit that has happened in that region is from Western influence with the help of the Saudis. Delightful as always. If we can fucking stop. Good point, Razor. We've learned. We keep on telling them this is what's happening is wrong. Should be stopped with all haste. And we're denounced as terrorists, terrorist sympathisers, and just rubbish. Or you're just a lefty loony. You don't know what it's like on the world stage. Fuck off. We're actually talking to people, brave, courageous fucking journalists and reporters on the ground in these countries, reporting what it's actually like, what's actually happening in these places. And you're denouncing them, you're arresting them at fucking airports. You're denying them entry. You're literally locking them up. Can't lock me up. I'm only reporting this from my fucking living room. Come at me.
Just to counter a point against that, obviously Tony Blair was in that position for 7 or 8 years and there was no peace brought to Palestine or Gaza. That was because of the Palestinian Authority at the time. I think he has the experience to actually leverage those issues for the better.
I mean, you're right. I did march rather than fight. I marched so people didn't fight. And if we'd been listened to, then hundreds of thousands of people wouldn't currently be dead. In terms of his, Middle East peace envoy, talking about him being experienced, someone put this, and this is blunt, but someone put this rather eloquently, saying he's got experience in the Middle East, therefore he's well suited, like saying Harold Shipman should run a care home because he has experience with elderly people.
Well, Tony Blair didn't run the Iraq war. He was instrumental in leveraging the political appetite for it.
The Chilcot inquiry, which is just memory hold by most people for some reason, found that he deliberately exaggerated the threat posed by Saddam Hussein, but more importantly, relevant to this, he ignored warnings about what would happen in the aftermath. There was no planning for the chaos, the violent chaos.
But would you not argue that's the reason why his experience will be brought to bear in Gaza?
What you're saying,
the lessons are learned from history, where he won't be the same, making the same mistakes.
You're saying because he oversaw a catastrophe, he's best placed to learn from the catastrophe he caused. This is ludicrous. He also, by the way, in the run-up to that war, as the Chilcot inquiry found, wrote letters to George W. Bush saying, I will be with you whatever. We saw what it was like when he deferred to a disastrous US president. Is he going to do the same with Donald Trump? I think most people would agree that's rather likely given his history.
Over to you. We asked you all morning on X, formerly Twitter, is Tony Blair the right person, in your view, to bring peace to the Middle East? 17% of you said yes, 83% of you said no. So there's a huge, huge movement against the idea in this country.
Well, the poll is hardly surprising given how monstrously unpopular Tony Blair is. It was a very short debate, so here's some other key points. When he was Middle East peace envoy for the Quartet, that's the United Nations, United States, European Union and Russia, there were 3 murderous assaults on Gaza, as well as the devastating siege by Israel against its people. We can safely say that Tony Blair did not fulfill his job description. One Palestinian official at the time summed up his record succinctly: useless, useless, useless. Indeed, Palestinian negotiators said he spent much of his time lobbying at the United Nations against the establishment of a Palestinian state. He backed the violent military coup in Egypt, led by General El-Sisi in 2013, who massacred vast numbers of Egyptian protesters. That's because Blair sends us his worldview around the spectre of radical Islam, so clearly is willing to disregard human rights abuses in the process. Indeed, he even called for a pact with Vladimir Putin's Russia in 2018 in the fight against terrorism, as he puts it. Now, at the same time, his institute has received millions of pounds from the Saudi dictatorship, who behead their opponents and indeed chop up journalists in embassies, as well as exporting extremism abroad. He's not consistent, let's put it that way. Indeed, Tony Blair's institute has received vast sums of money from other murderous dictatorships, from Kazakhstan.
I don't say this lightly. You might have. Out of the pair of them, I think Joe Lieberman would have been so much better than Dick Cheney. But that's a low bar, really, for people like me. Case in point, his daughter is still spouting his fucking BS. Correct, Fraser. Funny that. As far as we can tell, they'd already been married for a good few years at that point, and he converted and it caused the right-wing press to have a panic attack. Just because he converted to Catholicism doesn't mean he's going to be any different politician, really. If anything, he actually doubled down on certain policies that he wanted to enact for the British government. Don't get me wrong, some of my comrades here in Glasgow are Catholics and are still Marxist. And from what they tell me and how they behave, they still go to mass, they still go to the confessional, and they're still Marxist. So no, change to Catholicism doesn't mean you're going to be hardcore in any respect. But obviously, some people are. Case in point, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
To the United Arab Emirates, which has sought to trash proposals for peace in Palestine, and more recently, of course, has been waging a genocidal war in Sudan. Another donor is Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, who's donated or promised hundreds of millions of dollars to Tony Blair's institute. He is a zealous supporter of Israel, who only donated to Marco Rubio's presidential campaign in the United States a decade ago on the proviso that he was a zealous himself cheerleader of Israel. Ellison's leading the takeover of TikTok's US operations, which is clearly being driven by desire to change the algorithm in the interest of Israel, because it's been blamed for giving pro-Palestinian content a platform and thus shifting public opinion in the United States against Israel. The whole thing is frankly abhorrent, dystopian. There are Palestinians who still remember languishing under British rule. Indeed, it's British rule which led to this whole disaster in the first place. This is just revamped colonialism, and it speaks to just how cheap Arab blood is considered in the West. Tony Blair can be one of the architects of one of the great catastrophes of the 21st century, which drowned Iraq in blood and chaos. Hundreds of thousands slaughtered, and from that chaos came ISIS, among other dire consequences. And then the West can arm and facilitate a genocide, wipe Gaza from the face of the earth, slaughter, plausibly again, hundreds of thousands of people, many of them children, blow up Gaza's hospitals, murder its medical staff, deliberately starve its people, subject people to mass kidnapping, which obviously isn't discussed because Palestinian hostages do not qualify as human beings in the eyes of the Western media, torture, rape, we could go on. And then they try and impose the architect of one criminal catastrophe in the Middle East on the survivors of another criminal catastrophe in the Middle East, both catastrophes designed, facilitated by the West. Well, again, here's a radical idea. Let Palestinians rule Palestinians. The West's crimes, which have caused so much bloodshed and chaos, must be stopped. And it's incumbent on those of us in the West to end those crimes. I mean, it's absurd. They brought us Afghanistan, and Tony Blair's fingerprints were all over that as well. That ended in catastrophe. Iraq, and also Libya, which Tony Blair actively supported. Again, a catastrophe. Over and over again, bloody catastrophes, and they walk from one crime scene to another. Clearly, their desire for blood not satiated. Well, again, why do we allow people who are responsible for criminal catastrophes over and over again, when everything we've said was correct. We were proven right in the worst possible way, vindicated catastrophically, and yet we allow these criminals to just walk from crime scene to crime scene. Well, we should start in the West by fighting for accountability, and that means the likes of Tony Blair, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and all the rest tried at The Hague for the crimes they've committed. I don't care how utopian it sounds. Unless we get accountability, we're going to keep seeing these crimes committed over and over again. Please like and subscribe. Help us take on the calamitous media, which facilitates all these crimes at patreon.com/Owens84. Patreon.com/Owens84. You make all of this possible, it reaching millions across different media platforms. Share the video, leave your comments, subscribe. I think I've already said that. I'll speak to you in a bit.
Thank you, Owen. I was going to go to 4 hours tonight. I will stop 20 minutes early. My favourite. We'll go and raid Red Rust because he is beast. I don't know what you mean, Rachel. Wait. I don't know how to read out on YouTube. Sorry, Rachel, and my other two people here. Sorry, comrades. I'll figure it out eventually. Okay. Thank you for being here. So for my lovely Twitch comrades, please come over and say hi to Red Rust. Stay hydrated, not necessarily with alcohol. Self-care is good care. Take your meds. Stay based. Palestine. And keep on focused.